Though there are some lingering breezes early this morning. Highs today expected to top out in the upper 80s and low 90s. Keep listening for more updates throughout the day from News 3, your weather authority.
Sunshine 78 in Las Vegas. I'm John Shapiro on the new 101.5 FM, 720 AM KDON, Las Vegas' only FM news talk station. With the latest on the roads, here's John Michaels.
This report sponsored by Liberty Mutual Insurance, where you only pay for what you need. Eastern Avenue still closed between St. Louis and Oakey Boulevard for an ongoing fire investigation. Use an alternate to get around the closure, like Maryland Parkway or Boulder Highway instead. Slowing reported on the 215 Western Beltway northbound between Town Center Drive and Sahara, and reports of a traffic hazard on I-15 northbound approaching Lamb Boulevard that may be debris on the highway to watch for. Nobody should have to pay for one-size-fits-all insurance coverage. Liberty Mutual customizes your coverage so you only pay for what you need. I'm John Michaels from the KDON Traffic Center.
Get the rest you deserve with Helix Sleep. Helix makes personalized mattresses to fit your unique body type and sleep preferences and give you the best sleep of your life. Go to helixsleep.com and get up to $200 off mattress orders.
I'm Jim Snyder.
And I'm Marie Mortera. We want to thank you for making News 3 your #1 choice for news.
Every weeknight at 11, you can count on us to have the big story of the day.
Plus breaking news that matters to you.
Jim Snyder and Marie Mortera. News 3 live at 11.
Don't miss the Trading Group Show, Sundays at noon on KDWN. Learn how you can earn a full-time income working from home as a trader. That's the Trading Group Show, Sundays at noon. The question line is 888-646-8787.
101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDON, the talk of Las Vegas. The opinions of the hosts on KDWN are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of this station, its management, or Beasley Media Group.
Try not to stab each other. This is President Trump, the greatest president in the history of the president. And the only show I listen to is the top-rated show, Sharp and Shapiro. They are the best.
Cool as it can be. Here we go. Oh yeah. Let's do a little radio. Oh yeah. Put me up a little.
What's up, Las Vegas? It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro, coming at you live on a Monday. So glad you could be with us. Hope everybody had a fantastic weekend. I did, actually. I probably had the best weekend I've had in quite some time since this coronavirus action came at us. But we'll get into that. Coming up here in a little bit, we'll talk about a protest that I showed up to and got a little Fox 5 action because of that. And we'll talk a little bit about what I saw at that protest, what we saw at that protest. And then we're going to talk to a man by the name of Duncan Lemp. Duncan is from Battleborn Igloo. What that is, it's basically a group. They dress up in all the camouflage, I guess like G.I. Joe, that's the best way I could describe it, with their guns, AR-15s. And I went right up to him and I said, hey, we want to get one of you guys on the show. So it should be an interesting conversation. Seems like a very nice guy. I spoke to him on the phone yesterday. So, I don't agree with what they're doing, but we'll have a conversation about that coming up at the bottom of the hour.
What kind of a weapon was he holding when you had this conversation with him?
I believe it was an AR-15.
That's exciting.
We will ask him about that. Okay, I'm not 100% on that. So coming up in hour number 2, Donald Trump said that he's been treated worse than Abraham Lincoln. Last I checked, Abraham Lincoln was assassinated. So we're going to talk about those comments. Also going after George W. Bush on social media. We'll get into that as well and talk about this Michigan protest. The governor over there in Michigan going at it with Donald Trump again. Donald Trump, remember when he said good people on both sides? Well, he's kind of playing the same card when it comes to some of these Michigan protests. We'll talk about that coming up in hour number 2. Hour number 3, a doctor who got the coronavirus, he believes, in December. He tested positive for that. His name is H.L. Greenberg. He'll be joining us in hour number 3. We'll get to a little sports. The Last Dance yesterday I thought was fantastic. It was my favorite 2 episodes so far in regards to the Chicago Bulls and Michael Jordan. So we'll get all of that. But I want to start by having a little bit of fun here because I had a fun weekend. I'll speak for myself. But myself, our producer, Jason Stein, and Chris Wynn, who's obviously sitting in here today. We're sitting in his house, by the way, broadcasting the show live. If you want to watch us, you could also see us on YouTube, on the Vegas Take page. Subscribe up there. So we went to this protest. We'll get to that in a few minutes here. And after the protest, Jason Stein says, why don't we just drive to Utah? And I'm thinking to myself, a friend of mine a good friend who I've known for a while, for years, Todd Simon. If you're a sports fan in Las Vegas, you absolutely know who Todd is. Todd coached Findlay Prep here for years, one of the best high school basketball programs in the country, and then he became the assistant coach at UNLV. When Dave Rice was fired, he was the interim head coach at UNLV for a little while, and now he's the head coach at Southern Utah. So we took a great drive out to Southern Utah. We actually sat down in a restaurant because the rules and regulations in Utah are very different than Nevada. So we actually were able to sit down while still practicing social distance, but we were able, you guys had some beers, and we had some dinner with Todd, and then he showed us the university. Really cool out there where they play, and I'd never been out there before. So it was, I got to tell you, Cedar City's beautiful. It's not a place that I'd want to live, but it's certainly a place where I'm more than glad to visit. Really friendly people, really beautiful scenery, great restaurants, some cool shops to walk around. Guys, I had a really good time. It was really a lot of fun, and probably the most fun I've had in a little while. But I really enjoyed myself. I thought it was great.
Well, it was just strange, right, guys? Because it was an opportunity we haven't been able to have for basically 6 weeks, right? Here in Las Vegas, it's been a very different situation. But, of course, in Utah, particularly once you go south of Salt Lake City, there just isn't the caseload that they've had around the country. It's a very low caseload situation. As far, I believe they've had 2 deaths south of Salt Lake City in that state, so and a very low number of cases. So basically, the approach by the governor there in Utah is obviously very similar to many other states like Montana and South Dakota, North Dakota.
Republican governors.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
Right,
yeah, but
right.
that, I mean, his political affiliation really should make no difference.
But it's science-based,
well,
so it makes
politically,
sense.
well, no, it's political affiliation though. JD has nothing to do with it. But it was a good opportunity to go see and to actually experience a different type of scenario that we've been dealing with here in Las Vegas since May 15th, basically.
Here's what I want to add to this. It's almost like I forgot how much fun it is to go to a restaurant and sit down at a table with your friends and have a nice meal. Now, they're doing a good job. For example, the waitresses, the staff, they're all wearing masks. They're all wearing gloves. They don't take any of your dirty plates away. They do it all at once. You have to keep all your plates on the table. You're practicing social distance. There's signs on every shop there in Cedar City that say if you have any symptoms at all, you cannot come in here. That's basically what they're saying. And everyone's wearing masks and everyone's taking precautions. I found that to be comforting that they were doing that.
That would actually freak me out, Brian.
What would freak me out is if everyone in the restaurant was not taking precautions. That would freak me out a lot more.
People that weren't practicing social distancing.
So I actually felt very comfortable. Fantastic city. Again, if you're just looking to get away just for a weekend, I mean, it's cheap out there, and the weather is absolutely beautiful. It's a little cooler out there. I mean, you look on the mountains, there's snow on top of the mountains. So really fun, and to catch up with Todd Simon was really great. He's doing a fantastic job over there at Southern Utah as the head basketball coach. They were one of the worst teams in the country when he took over. I think they finished last year around 150 in the country, somewhere around there. And when you consider the fact that he does not have a lot of money to be able to recruit out there, he's doing a great job as the basketball coach. And we should root for him because he's one of Vegas' own. I mean, he started his coaching career right here in Las Vegas. He comes out to Las Vegas here all the time. Of course, him and Cliff Finley still talk. And, of course, Cliff Finley, a big supporter of UNLV basketball and a great guy who does a lot of good things for a lot of people here in Las Vegas. So, anyway, all around, it was a fantastic trip. We all had a great time. I'm planning on going back out there in a few weeks, maybe playing some golf with Todd. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I want to spend some more time out there because I was impressed of what great of a city it is.
What's the population there, Brian? Do you have any idea?
Do you know?
35,000 in the town of in the city of Cedar City. St. George, we obviously went through St. George, which is right basically on the border of Nevada
that's gorgeous.
and Utah. Tremendous city there as well too. So, but to your point, Brian, you pointed out, of course, the opportunity to have a different kind of perspective, right?
Sure.
It was almost like when I was in the military, when you go into basic training and advanced training in the Army, and once you get out of that, you just appreciate having a roof over your head and having an opportunity to choose what you have to eat, and
it was a nice experience.
Yeah, it was a nice experience. Basically.
All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about this protest that took place over the weekend on Saturday right here in Las Vegas. Obviously, a protest, against the governor wanting things to reopen. Another one of those protests. We actually went to that protest. I'm going to talk a little bit about it when we get back, and it's not going to shed a positive light on those people that put this protest together or those people that attended the protest. I'll explain what that means coming back. You're listening to the Vegas Take right here on the all-new 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDAWN.
Maybe you can relate to this. A lot of people think they're stuck with their health plan. It costs too much, or for whatever reason, they just don't like it. The great news, you are not stuck with it. There is a choice. It's called MediShare, and you could save so much. The typical savings for a family is $500 a month. Major difference maker. This is the affordable alternative to health insurance. And just to give you a little more info about MediShare, it's a Christian healthcare sharing ministry. It's worked beautifully for 26 years, has more than 400,000 members, and they've shared over $3 billion of each other's medical bills. So, yes, they can help share your needs too. So you're not stuck. There's an excellent alternative, whether you're single or married, you got a family.
Oh, yeah.
MediShare is super flexible. You can choose an option that works for you and start saving lots of money. You can join anytime. They're great to talk to, no pressure. Call 844-91-BIBLE. That's 844-91-BIBLE.
Wait a minute. Whoa. So you think that putting a 40-year-old putting a hat on backwards, which is supposed to be like a faux pas, 40-year-old guys aren't supposed to put a hat on backwards.
Rock or heavy metal.
Well,
we all march to the beat of our own drummer.
Am I wrong
or
on that, you guys?
guitarist. That's why Views All Tech offers you more ways to vape your way.
Oh, are you?
It's available in 5 bold color options, 3
Hey,
smooth tastes, and 3
I'm
nicotine
saying,
levels.
I'm
It's
being
your
honest
vape,
with you guys,
your
okay?
way. Views, charge beyond. Underage sale prohibited.
These are unprecedented times, which are causing a lot of stress and financial worry for millions of Americans. But here's some good news. If you owe back taxes to the IRS, Optima Tax Relief can reduce the stress in your life by helping you resolve your tax debt right from the safety of your own home. Make no mistake, you don't want to owe the IRS right now. They can take your paycheck and everything you work so hard for. But with Optima on your side, you may qualify for hope that saves you thousands. Their tax professionals specialize in the Fresh Start Initiative, one of the biggest breaks the IRS has ever offered. Optima is A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau and has resolved over $1 billion of tax debt for taxpayers across the nation. So now's the time. For tax help you need, for tax help you trust, call Optima now for a free consultation.
Call 800-709-6011. That's 800-709-6011. 800-709-6011.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Sean Hannity, weekdays noon to 3 p.m. Now back to the Vegas Take on 101.5 FM, 720 AM. KDON.
100%. It's over there.
All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro. Glad you could join us, coming at you live on a Monday. Don't worry, we'll take some calls a little bit later on the show, as we always do here, because this show is certainly about you, and we're glad you're out there listening to us. I want to start off by stating this. And by the way, I took the wrong microphone. I took Chris's microphone. Sorry about that, Chris. So on Saturday, we decided to go out to this protest. It was another one of those protests on the Strip, the reopen protest, get us out of quarantine protest, one of those. And I decided to go out there for a couple.
Oh, it was the one that JD talked about on Friday, right?
So I decided to go out there for a couple.
I mentioned it one time.
I decided to go out there for a couple different reasons. Even though you see all the videos of these protests throughout the country, you want to actually see it with your own eyes for yourself. So I said, I want to go out there and I want to see one of these for myself. It wasn't to go out there to get into it with Trump, Trump guys, or get into arguments with people. That's not why I wanted to go out there. For the show purposes, and for the purpose just of myself, just to be there to see what it was like. So we show up to this thing, and there was maybe about 100 people there, no more than that. And 90% of those people were wearing Trump gear. It might have been a Make America Great Again hat or a shirt. It might have been a sign. It might have been, Make America Great Again 2020 on their car. But that's exactly what was out there, period. I saw it with my own eyes. So people can lie. People can say this isn't about politics. It was 100% about politics. Everyone out there. Now, they might believe that, hey, they want things to reopen. That's fine. But it's also about politics. You make it about politics when you wear all your Trump stuff. That's number one. Number two, we had some militia people out there, people dressed as G.I. Joe. There were about 4 or 5 of them, and we're going to have one of them coming up at the bottom of the hour, but I want to focus on that later when we have our guest. That was another thing. So I noticed that Fox 5 was out there, and I've worked with some guys over at Fox 5 before. They sent one of their camera guys out there. To my knowledge, that was the only news crew that was out there when we were there. And he interviewed a few Trump supporters, and it looked like he was struggling to get some sound bites. Some of these people are not in the media. Some of these people are not used to being able to talk in full sentences. I understand that. So I went up to the camera guy and I said, hey, I'm one of these people that are opposed to this rally, and his eyes lit up, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I want to talk to you." But then he's like, "Let's move away from some of these people." And then you have one of these Trump clowns that's following the cameraman, trying to give him his political beliefs, and the camera guy's like, yeah, okay, buddy. And then he looks at me and he goes, "I don't care what that guy has to say." I was just laughing. So anyway, I did an interview with Fox 5. I did not know that I would be, they would use more of my sound bites than anybody else, but they did. I wanted to air that for you. So this is the Fox 5 report that they did on this protest over the weekend. Here it goes.
Following Governor Sisolak's announcement to extend the stay-at-home order and push back certain business openings, protesters gathered near downtown this morning. Fox 5's Chris Redfern reports.
Protests.
Okay, so get ready.
Politics.
If it's not a political situation, then don't make it political.
And different platforms. This morning, hundreds gathered with differing opinions on how to handle reopening the Las Vegas economy.
Please balance it, okay? Open us completely up, please. People will keep safe.
Our governor doesn't appear to have much concern about people who are suffering financially.
I personally believe if the Strip has been open this whole time, we could look like New York.
That's local radio host Brian Shapiro.
I do a radio show here in Vegas called The Vegas Take.
He says he largely supports how the governor's handled things so far, but respects there's people here at this protest who see things differently. But a mere difference of opinion wasn't what was frustrating him today.
Clearly, when you zoom your camera around, not everybody is practicing social distancing. That's my number one concern. These people have a right to protest. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Practice social distancing.
Shapiro and others acknowledged how tough times are right now.
It's just stressing us out with money. I mean, we're just getting by right now. We can't keep this up any longer. There's the science that's showing that, it's affecting certain groups more than others. I think we should make sure we take extra protection to protect them. But, for the average person, we need to just continue on with our lives.
I'm Christopher Redfern, Fox 5 News, local Las Vegas.
All right, so I thought they did a pretty good job in showing really what was there. Like I said, there were only about 100 people. Not a very good showing at all. In fact, I thought it was an embarrassment as far as from a showing perspective. If the majority or even more than half of Nevada feels that way, then why do you only get 100 people at a protest? That's number one. Number two, why are you all wearing your Trump stuff? I mean, I don't understand that. It takes away from your cause. Even if I was, hypothetically speaking, if I was a Donald Trump supporter, which clearly I'm not, but if I was, why would I want to wear Trump stuff? That's not why I'm there. I'm not there to try to reelect Donald Trump. I'm there because I want stuff to reopen. And that's fine. If that's your opinion, even though I disagree.
Well, again, Brian, obviously the event was poorly organized and not very well marketed, clearly. But the group, the Nevadas Against Extended Quarantine, which I am a part of, has almost 9,000 members, and it is about reopening Nevada. And it's not about political affiliation.
Then why are they all wearing Trump stuff?
Because obviously there's some extremists.
No, that's not true.
No, there are some extremists who think that coronavirus is a hoax. Who believe whatever they want to believe. You're going to have X amount of percentage of people that are involved in the group that are
what does it have to do with Trump?
That are going to be extremists. And obviously, if you want the economy open, there's a much greater chance that you are a Trump supporter than if you are not. The entire perspective here is that we want Nevada opened up. Now, if you want to support Trump in the process, that's your business, but that's not what the group is all about. And so that's why the actual event was not accurately representative of what the group is representative of.
Okay, but that's not our fault. I'm
not suggesting that it is.
I'm going by what I saw.
But it certainly wasn't a Klan rally either.
No, I didn't say it was a Klan rally. I never said that.
And I wasn't there to start because my car was actually stolen.
Nobody cares about
that.
Well,
I do. I'm explaining to you why I wasn't there. But I wasn't there to start. And I would have gone on Fox 5 and I would have had the differing opinion. I would have eloquently stated it, and they would have shown that as well. But I wasn't there for that. There will be another protest on the 16th of May in 2 weeks, and that'll be much better attended.
Okay. I can't wait.
It'll be much more organized, and I hope you're there.
I can't wait.
I hope you're there, but it's going to be at.
What are you going to get? 200?
Going to be 200 there now?
Yeah.
Is that a joke?
I'm asking.
I'm actually an honest question.
Brian, let's wager.
You know,
I'm dead serious.
I want to know how many people are going to be there.
No, it's wager.
I'm honestly asking.
Let's do it.
How many people?
How much do you want to bet?
I want to know.
First of all, nobody cares. I'm trying to talk about what happened over the weekend.
Now you're trying to mock the event and me being a part of it.
No, that's not what I said.
Yes, you are. And I'm saying put your money where your mouth is.
Again, you're not listening.
I guarantee you. I guarantee you that we will have at least.
You said yourself that it was an embarrassing.
It was not organized correctly. I was not personally involved in the organization.
Can you give me 20 seconds to talk?
Absolutely.
What I meant was nobody cares about our wager. Okay. Our listeners don't care about that. Okay. Our listeners probably don't care if you're going to show up or not. What I'm trying to talk about is what I saw there.
Sure.
Okay, and you can talk about the organization. That's fine, but nobody cares about this other stuff. What I'm trying to tell you is that even though there were some people there that were extremists, there were some. 90% of the people that were there were wearing Trump stuff. 90% of the people that were there it felt like a Donald Trump campaign rally. And the point I'm trying to make is, if you're trying to get to Sisolak and you're trying to show some credibility and you're trying to say, let's reopen, you don't make it a Trump rally.
I agree.
Everybody there.
I totally agree with that.
And I guarantee you that's going to happen again. You know why, JD? Because it's happening throughout the country. You haven't seen anybody with a Biden sign. They're making it about politics.
Do you know why that is? Because the thought process is that a lot of these, you look at Utah. Utah was open, right? Those small towns in Utah.
It's a
Republican governor. It's a Republican governor, right? And he understands that the science says that there's not a lot of cases here. Well, I can tell you that in Nevada, outside of Las Vegas, outside of Clark County, by the way, in Clark County, 70% of the cases have already recovered. But outside of Clark County, there are several counties, entire counties, that have less than 10 cases that are closed right now.
JD, how do you answer this question?
And people are looking at that and they're saying this is political. Obviously, specific Democratic governors and Democratic people who are in these states want to keep everything shut down. They want to keep everything. But I'm telling you why Trump is involved. They want to keep everything shut down so that the economy does not do well, so that Trump loses in 2020.
Absurd.
No, it's not absurd.
Now you're going down the road.
I'm telling you that. That is why. That is why Donald Trump is involved in the conversation right now.
You made your point. Now let me interject, because I think what you said is completely.
It's not even close.
Okay, well now it's my turn. Okay, first of all, there is no evidence that you have to support. Excuse me. There's no evidence that you have to support the fact that there are Democratic governors that are keeping things closed for one main reason, so that Donald Trump doesn't get reelected in 2020. There is no way that these politicians are intentionally doing that, hurting people, closing down businesses, wanting people to suffer for the sole intention to try to get Donald Trump out of office. And when you make a claim like that, you sound ridiculous.
No, I don't sound ridiculous.
Tell me your 100% evidence of that.
What 100% evidence? Yes. What kind of a statement is that, Brian?
If you're the one making crazy statements, not me.
So the last year, what has Donald, the positive that the media has talked about Donald Trump, what has been predicated around? It has been predicated around the economy.
That's your evidence?
The one thing that Trump has done well, the one thing that Trump has done well the last 3.5 years is the economy. And if the economy is gone, so is Trump's presidency. And these Democratic governors know that. And so people that are integrating Donald Trump into the conversation.
You're injecting politics.
The people that are integrating Donald Trump into the conversation understand that there is a political element to this, and that if Trump does not, if the economy is destroyed. And then let's say we open up in a month, and then we have to close down again and fall because, like Fauci says, we're going to have a second wave. Well, if we're closed down during election time, do you think there's any chance in hell that Trump could win the election? I think there isn't.
JD,
I think that a lot of people across the country think the exact same thing.
I can't. Yeah, JD.
It was a rhetorical question.
JD, I'm going to make a factual statement.
That's fine.
Here. The only ones injecting politics in this are you and Trump supporters.
That's not true at all.
That's it. That's 100% true. What are Democrats doing as far as what are Democrats doing?
Chris, why is Nevada? Why are the counties?
I'm asking you.
Why are the counties outside of Clark County not open in Nevada?
Why is that?
Why is that?
I'm asking you.
I'm asking you that.
Okay, well, Chris is asking you a question.
I'm asking you a question, not answering.
Okay, you guys can't talk at the same time.
What are Democrats doing from a political standpoint? Okay. That when dealing with this pandemic, with this virus, what are Democrats doing that is political? Okay, because I'll tell you what, Trump supporters are going out and protesting.
We could take a look at Schiff's and Pelosi and that new team that's investigated them, that's investigating how Trump has handled this. You can look at how it's being handled by CNN and by MSNBC and by the coverage by Democratic coverage by networks. It's all the same, Chris. It's all intertwined. Everything is all intertwined at this point.
Wait, so you think
about how we as a country are dealing with a pandemic?
All right, I'll say it again, guys. Hold on. Let's take. I'll say it again. I'll say it again.
Yes.
It's very simple. Okay. You can have your opinions. That's fine. but there is not a shred of actual evidence to support the fact that there are Democrats in office right now that want the economy to tank, that want people to suffer, for the only sole purpose is that so Donald Trump can be thrown from office in 2020.
Okay, not the sole purpose, but part of it is definitely Donald Trump not being the president. And if this was not 2020 and this pandemic hit in, say, 2016 or 2018, I think it would be covered differently, and I believe that that we would be back to work at this point.
I'm not sure.
Right now, it is very clear that in a bunch of places across the country,
about the media coverage
the virus has not.
You can talk about how Democrats hate Trump all you want. We're talking about a global pandemic.
Hold on a second.
I asked you a very simple question, and you didn't even bother answering it.
Chris asked you a very specific question, and your only answer. Hold on. Your only answer was Nancy Pelosi and Schiff investigating Trump.
No,
you have to come up with something else.
I'm saying a lot of different things are taking place right now.
Like
for example,
Democrats are not making decisions based on politics when it comes to pandemic.
Yes, they are.
No, they're not.
Yes, they are.
They absolutely
yes, they are, Chris. They absolutely are.
You're wrong.
Oregon is shut down until July 6th. Why? They have 2,600 cases collectively there. Why? Okay. Why is that? You answer me that question.
They're using democratic ideologies.
I'm telling you, Chris, a lot of economies right now are shut down that don't need to be shut down predicated on science.
They're not using
democratic ideologies. Nevada is one of those economies.
All right, so here's what we're going to do next, okay? We're gonna continue this conversation, but my problem is, what good does it do to have people show up at a protest, whether it's 100 or 200 or 5,000 or whatever? What good does it do to have these people show up with their Trump stuff everywhere, looking like buffoons? What good does it do to have people show AR-15s dressed up as G.I. Joe, swearing at some of the cars that are actually in support of them going by? That's exactly what I saw at this pathetic protest over the weekend with about 100 people. That's what I saw. People that couldn't put sentences together. People that were ignorant. One guy that had a car, and on that car, that thing on that car said, Corona hoax.
Extremist.
Well,
absolutely,
idiots.
I agree.
And I'm not saying
I don't agree with that. Or the guy that was there with the RV that was talking about Jesus this, Jesus that. Do I agree with that? No. And you're going to have extremists. You're going to have, of the 9,000 in the group, you're going to have probably 300 that maybe are in a militia, or that maybe.
What I was saying was
one car, though, JD.
I agree. I understand. I understand. By the way, Fox 5 said hundreds of people, not 100.
Okay. Well, that's what I saw.
You're downplaying that.
We were actually there.
I was there,
like Fox News was. We were there.
All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, one of those men that was dressed up as G.I. Joe with a gun in his hand, we're going to talk to him next. His name is Duncan Lemp. He's with Battleborn Igloo, and I'm going to ask him, why are you dressed up like that? Why are you bringing guns to these events? It should be an interesting conversation. We'll be right back right after this. That's the Vegas Take, 101.5 FM, 7:20 a.m., KDAWN.
Coronavirus emerged from a lab in Wuhan. We get more from correspondent David Colvin.
One of the things they have been pushing out significantly over the past week or so, multiple times,
That's
is
fine.
against Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. Tonight, they took it a step further. They called him evil in his commentary and his accusations that this originated within a lab. I'm going to read you some of what they say. They accuse him of creating rumors recklessly in the face of science. They go on to say that he's repeating a made-up lie.
The New York Times has obtained a Trump administration document that shows the daily death toll from the coronavirus will nearly double by the 1st of June to 3,000 a day. A French hospital that retested old samples from pneumonia think that the first COVID patient in that country was in December. I'm Mike Moss.
Maybe you can relate.
It's time to check the roads.
From the Letterman Road Traffic Studio.
This report sponsored by ExpressPros.com. Eastern Avenue still closed between St. Louis Avenue and Oakey Boulevard for an ongoing fire investigation. Use an alternate to get around the closure like Maryland Parkway or Boulder Highway instead. Elsewhere, a crash on Sahara west of I-15. In that case, use Charleston or Desert Inn instead. And a serious crash, I-15 northbound in California between Baker and Halloran Springs. Right 2 lanes are blocked because of an accident involving 2 big rigs. This is an ongoing accident. Need to manage changing workforce? It's time to get to know Express Employment Professionals. Find a location near you at expresspros.com. John Michaels from the KDAWN Traffic Center.
Welcome back to Sports View. Today's topic, who's the greatest of all time? For my money, it's Progressive's Home and Auto Bundle. It literally saves you money. Gentlemen, your thoughts?
Look, it's I've said it before and I'll say it again. Add up all the heroes, take away the zeros, and what you got? One big trophy of me saying, I told you so.
I disagree.
Thanks, fellas. Took the words right out of my mouth.
There's really no debate. Progressive's Home and Auto Bundle is a winning combination. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers. Discounts not available in all states or situations.
Diabetes, high blood pressure, anxiety meds, everyone's on them. If you're a 50-year-old male, maybe a bit beefy, or even with type 2 diabetes, $1 million of term insurance may only cost you about $200 a month. Affordable term life insurance is out there. Call Term Provider and speak with Big Lou at 800-481-1458. 800-481-1458 or visit biglou.com. Remember, Big Lou's like you. He's on meds too.
Sean Hannity, weekdays noon to 3 p.m. Now back to the Vegas Take on 101.5 FM, 720 AM. KDON.
All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro on a Monday. Glad you could join us. We'll take some phone calls here in just a little bit at 257-5396. But as we mentioned, we all went to the protest over the weekend on Monday. Not a great turnout, about 100 people or so. But some of the people that I noticed that were at this protest, they brought their guns with them, about 4 or 5 of them, and they were dressed up, for lack of a better term, like a GI Joe, which is their right. And I've never said that it wasn't their right to do that. But one of those guys, his name is Duncan Lemp, and he was nice enough. I gave him my card at the protest, and he was nice enough to call me a stand-up guy for doing that, and I appreciate it. He's from Battleborn Igloo, and he joins us right now on the line. Duncan, I appreciate you joining us. How are you?
Hey, what's up, Duncan?
Good. Thank you for having me.
Sure. I appreciate you coming on, Duncan. So let me start with this question. For people that are unfamiliar with your group, can you talk a little bit about your group and why it was you felt like it was important to be there over the weekend?
Yes, we definitely want to go and support anybody that's in. They're there supporting their First Amendment. You know that they have a right to say something and protest that's about something they disagree with, which we're constitutionalists and we support that, and we wanted to be there in support of. We go caring because we also support the Second Amendment. Without the Second Amendment, we wouldn't really have the First Amendment.
Right. Sure, and I understand that. So it brings me to my next question. By the way, for the record, I've never said you guys were breaking the law. It is absolutely your right to do what you do. I want to be very clear on that. But I want to ask you this question. Do you, from a standpoint of... No, and absolutely. And I haven't said otherwise, just so you know. With that being said, with all the gun violence in the world, particularly in this country, the mass shootings, do you understand, Duncan, why some people would find it very intimidating and quite frankly scary to see you guys dressed as G.I. Joe carrying your AR-15s? You do understand that it's something that could intimidate people. Do you understand that side of it?
Yes, we're aware that there's those who might be a little terrified of it. The point isn't to make people afraid. It's to show people and to, I guess, bring up a dialogue to allow them to, hey, what's the reason for this? And so we can speak about it, get the word, get the message out, and hopefully inform them, like, hey, this is really not that scary like you think it is.
Okay, fair enough. And I'm not saying you were one of those people, but there was somebody in your group that was swearing at, and I saw this with my own eyes and heard it, the cars going by saying, get the F out of your car. You're not doing jack you know what. So my question is, why would he be doing that? I don't expect you to speak for him, but he was one of the people that was in your group. Why was he saying those things and being rude to the cars that were driving by?
I think the idea was a drive-through protest. I mean, even saying it is silly. Everything we do in America is increasingly becoming more and more lazy. We don't even do drive-thrus anymore. We have people deliver food to us from drive-through places. A drive-through protest is an even more lazy version of that. Sitting in your car is not telling anybody anything because, you're not actually standing for what you believe in. I cannot imagine a situation where everybody sitting in their car is going to make anybody think, well, you know what, maybe they're right, let's listen to them.
But don't you think that part of that...
They could get out and say that.
Understood, but don't you think a part of that could be social distancing, that they're practicing social distancing and they're trying to do it responsible? For example...
The same exact people, for the most part, that were at the last protest, and they were not practicing social distancing.
Well, then I agree with you. Then you know what? Then I agree with you. But I would...
It's a little hypocritical to do it now after you already weren't doing it. It's too late for them.
And that's a valid point, but my response to that would be, well, wouldn't you rather them practice social distancing than go about their ways before?
I think that they have the right to do it however they want, and I would want them to do how they felt safe doing so. I recognize several people, actually a lot of people there.
I got you.
Prior protests.
I got you.
I think it was more of like, we get it. It was hot outside. Maybe they were just hot.
Sure.
They wanted to be in the sun for whatever reason. But
Okay.
like I said, sitting in your car, though, in a drive-through protest is not protesting.
All right, I understand.
It's a little infuriating that we're there trying to support.
Right. I get your point. I get your
And they're just not.
I get your point. So let me ask you this. And again, I'm going to preface this again.
You're just saying what they're doing wasn't effective, but it's not going to move the needle at all
Right.
from the governor's perspective or
Right.
somebody like that.
So,
Okay.
From this perspective, and I understand you're practicing your First Amendment right. I understand you're practicing your Second Amendment right. I'm with you on that. Like I said, and like you said, you weren't breaking the law. With that being said, what are you actually, in your opinion, accomplishing? Do you think that if you show up with your guns and you look like G.I. Joe, the governor is going to see you on TV and he's going to say, well, you're laughing, but I think it's a serious question. Do you think the governor is the...
referred to as GI.
Well, I mean, that's what you...
People that come and kidnap.
All right, yeah, you guys were decked out basically in military garb, right? You're wearing military
Okay,
garb.
well, let me ask you a question. Did you ever serve?
No, that's
Okay.
fine. Yeah,
Right. So you know what I'm talking
speaking
about.
as someone who's ex-military.
Right,
That's
fair
fine.
enough.
Yeah.
Let me just finish my question. But from my perspective, that's what you look like. And by the way, thank you for your service.
That's fair. That's fine.
Yeah, and I appreciate your service. Sure, and I'm glad you served this country because obviously you know a little thing or two about the battle and risking your life for this country, and I appreciate you for that and your service. But my question still stands: do you think Governor Sisolak is going to see you guys on television and say, "Wow, those guys are decked out. They've got their AR-15s. Geez, I better open everything up." I mean, what do you actually think you're going to accomplish by showing up decked out like that, or people in their cars, with their Trump signs and your flags? Do you really think that the governor is going to change his mind because you're out there with a couple hundred people?
I can't imagine just because a few hundred of us are out there, or just a couple of us are out there armed, that him personally is going to see that and say, "Oh, gee, I better listen to them." But it's more of a hope that that other people see it and know they're not alone. If they have the same opinions on it, we don't want them. We want them to be not afraid of such to participate in such things. We're aware that one or two of us is not going to change the governor's mind.
Right.
If they see a picture of us on the news or whatever.
Well, and Duncan, I'll tell you this. That there's going to be one more on May 16th, and it'll be a much more organized situation with a better turnout. That being said,
I thought there was. I just saw a thing saying there was another one at the Preparatory Building coming up on Saturday.
Yep. Yeah. There's a bunch of them coming up.
There's one this Saturday at night.
Duncan, do you consider Battleborn Igloo to be a form of Nevada militia?
A Nevada militia? No, absolutely not.
Okay.
So here's another question that
we don't consider ourselves a militia. That's just a place for people who have like-minded thoughts of, in the political world and real world that we think to meet up and get to know each other, kind of like that.
All right, so Duncan, let me kind of pose this to you. So obviously we've been talking about the situation of opening up Nevada. When I think about when I saw you guys out there on Saturday, is it fair to say or fair to maybe to ask you this question that your motivation wasn't necessarily the open up Nevada cause, but you guys are more aligned with, you want to make sure that you preserve the Second Amendment, right? Your ability to carry arms, your ability, your guys, a major part of the reason you guys were out there is Second Amendment rights, and the fact that you might I don't want to put words in your mouth, but that you think that they're somehow at risk when it comes to having Steve Sisolak as the governor or having Democrats in charge. You feel that there is some type of risk out there that you may have your rights taken away?
Yes, absolutely. The Second Amendment right is constantly under fire. To say otherwise is a lie, and we all know this.
Okay, so that was
the California governor, the judge in California just tried to repeal the law saying that you don't need to have your ID license or background check to just purchase ammo, and then it was immediately taken away again. That's something that's a huge infringement, and the purpose of the Second Amendment, in the United States, shall not be infringed. We have concerns that each of these laws and the things that they're passing is another infringement upon our rights.
Wait, hold on a second. So you don't think you should have to show a driver's license to purchase ammo?
Ammo? No, absolutely not.
So any nut job who maybe is a serial killer or somebody that is a convicted felon, you have no problem.
Can take anything and make it a weapon. And
that's okay. Hold on a second.
People need ammo. That's great.
Okay, hold on a second. Oh, hold on. Let's go back to my question. Though. You are okay with hold on a second. for the record, okay, you cannot compare stabbings to mass shootings. Okay, 59 people died in Las Vegas.
Are there mass stabbings out there?
There are not
Does that
mass
happen?
stabbings. See, I'm sorry, I disagree with you. But let's go back to what I just said. For the record, you are okay with convicted felons not showing any form of identification and buying as much ammo as you want. Is that your position, sir?
My position is that individuals should have the right to defend themselves.
So the answer is yes. So the answer is yes. Okay, I think that's ridiculous.
A scenario.
No, I'm going by a scenario, and I'm going by no. Well,
to make them automatically some kind of evil villain.
okay, excuse me. A convicted felon who has murdered somebody is an evil person.
What are they doing?
No, it's very simple. There are reasons, excuse me, there are reasons why convicted felons are not allowed to buy guns. There's a reason for that. And it's the same reason why I'm not okay with a convicted felon buying ammo. I'm trying to understand why you don't understand that.
I just told you, I believe that each individual has a right to choose for themselves. You're, like I said, you're going...
All right, so okay, fair enough. So whether it's a worst case scenario or not, it's still a scenario.
Looking for to push your own
All right, so listen.
The real question is
no, that is a real question, sir.
To go in and pick up some ammo? Yeah.
Okay. With all due respect, sir, that is a real question. I'm going to ask you another real question. That's my job. Let's just say your neighbor is a convicted felon. Let's just say your neighbor shot somebody 20 years ago, just got out of jail. You live with your family. You're okay with your neighbor buying guns, buying ammo, doing whatever they want to protect themselves. In your opinion, you're okay with your neighbor having 100 guns in his house and thousands of rounds of ammo who killed somebody and was just in jail for 15 years. You're okay with someone next to you who just threatened his wife that batters his wife. You're okay with anybody on the planet Earth. You could say...
If he was battering their wife, why would we not just, take them away from that situation?
Well, because it's not that easy, sir. There are laws and...
We believe in violating the NAP.
That's not true.
Yeah, we do. Our group is very much in agreement with the NAP. If someone is harming another individual,
okay,
then you'd be punished for that.
All right, let's go with that. Okay, fair enough. Let's go with that, Duncan.
I absolutely don't believe in somebody who's beating on another person.
All right, fair enough. I'm glad you feel that way.
I believe that I have the right to just pick up a firearm and defend myself and my family.
Okay, but you're not a convicted felon, I would imagine, and you serve this country honorably, and I'm totally okay with you doing that. But the point I'm trying to make is this. If a man threatens his wife, threatens the life of his wife, she calls the police. He probably won't even spend a day in jail. They might book him. They might bring him in. As soon as he walks out of that police station, in most states, he is legally allowed to purchase a gun after threatening the life of his wife. Are you okay with that?
So why would she not then therefore go and get a weapon to defend herself?
So your answer...
What we believe in is self-government.
So let's just have a gunfight then.
Threatening your life, then you have a right to defend yourself. She should have a right to defend herself.
So that woman is shaking. She's nervous. She believes her husband is going to buy a gun and kill her, and your response to her is, well, he's allowed to do that. You can buy a gun too. That's your response?
She's an adult, and she can make her own decisions.
That's not what I said.
There are options which she could take. You're assuming that this person is just the person locked away in a closet and has no way of defending themselves or getting out of a situation. I'm sorry, I was raised, I have many sisters, I have a mother, I have a wife, I have a daughter. Every single one of them know that if their life was in danger or somebody was to threaten them, that they would take action against it.
So your answer to rectify the situation is you're okay with that person who's mentally ill or challenged that's threatening someone else. You just want a gunfight. But you just want to, that's not true. In every state, there's not a law about that. In some states, that person who is released from jail is allowed to purchase a gun. And that's why I asked the question. And it seems...
You said mentally ill people who are convicted of being, or have been hospitalized for mental illness are not allowed to.
Well, how about the school shooter, how about the school shooting a few years ago where that kid... 69 times police went to his house. He was still allowed legally to purchase a gun. So I'm sure even you would agree that it's not a very good system, and we need to do a better job in finding mental. I'm just trying to get your position on this. You would rather have a gunfight than protect the victim.
We should have a better way of helping those with mental illness.
Absolutely.
Then that's not a gun problem. It's a mental illness
Well,
problem, which I agree with.
Right. Like I said,
more health capabilities for those with mental illness.
Like I said, we agree on that. I'm with you on that. But I have a serious problem with you being okay with a convicted felon buying as much ammo as he wants to buy. I cannot believe, quite frankly, sir, we can disagree. That's fine. I cannot believe you're okay with convicted felons, people that have just gotten out of jail, very dangerous people. As you know, there's a good chance when some of these people get out of jail, they'll commit crimes again, and you're okay with them, and you're...
I know there's a percentage that is almost guaranteed to and then go back.
That's my point. So why would you want somebody like that buying ammo then? I mean, we're trying to protect those. I have no problem with you carrying a gun. I'm not a gun grabber, okay? That's not my position. I think any responsible person should be allowed...
Imagine that you're the kind of person that wants to go around and just take them from everybody.
Yeah, I'm not that person. Is that what you think?
And I agree that and I'm agreeing with you that. And all I'm saying is I agree that people have the individual right to make that decision in self-mastery. You're referring to a very small percentage of the population. 1% of the population is incarceration. Of that 1%, it's an even smaller percentage that's there for violent crimes.
Then why is gun violence up?
Very minute numbers. Very minute numbers.
Then why is gun violence up? Why are we having mass? I'll tell you what. When I was in high school, I'm 40 years.
Not up. Mass shootings have gone down since this whole quarantine is going on.
Well, of course. Wait, hold on a second.
Come on.
Hold on a second.
Come on now.
First of all, how can you commit a mass shooting?
Come on now.
Schools are closed. The malls are closed. There's no concerts. Yeah, you have some protests, but when you make that argument that mass shootings are down, sadly, there's no real opportunities to commit mass shootings.
You guys are just waiting to jump on him there.
Well, I can't believe you said that.
You got your opportunity. Well, it's the truth. It's the truth.
Hey, Duncan, you did tee us up there with that.
But you guys, like the last 5 minutes, you've just been waiting to make that move.
Okay, well, JD, you don't speak for me.
I'm glad you made it.
You don't speak for me, and that's 100% not true.
It was effective. It was necessary.
Okay, well, can I go back to the interview now? Thank you. Why would you make a statement like that? We're all in quarantine. With all due respect, Duncan, and you sound like a smart guy. You do. But why would you make that argument? You know exactly what I'm talking about. We didn't have these types of high school.
I get what you're saying. I understand you're saying the opportunity is not there for these tragedies to happen because of the quarantine. I'm aware of what you're saying. Yeah. And that's a valid argument, and that's fine.
Okay. So let's go back to what I said then. High school shootings. Back when I was in high school, we didn't have these types of things going on. I mean, so why? Right, and you mentioned knives.
The only mass shooting in the school when I was a kid growing up was Columbine.
Columbine, right? Agree. So why do you think?
Nothing happened tragically like that till long after I'd become
right?
Gun.
Of course. So why is it happening now? And do you think it's going to rectify the situation by telling felons they could buy ammunition and it's your right to do so?
I'm not telling felons that they can buy ammunition. That's not what I said. What I said was I believe the individual has the right to choose for themselves. I am not in charge or command dominion over other men.
Mm-hmm.
Just like I do not expect others to do it over to me. So I can't say, yeah, I agree with that person to do that. I'm just saying that's not my decision to make.
Well, no, there are laws that are put in place.
I'm not in a position of authority, nor do I.
You know, and I'll answer that question.
I'm not making a statement on that at all. All I said was I believe in individual self-governance and individual rights, and that the individual should have a right to defend themselves.
Even if they're a felon. Even if they're a felon.
And Duncan, I would argue that that shootings and mass shootings are up because of an increased amount of psychotropic drugs, especially for younger kids.
Well, I agree that
families are a lot of families aren't together, and then you have social. Yeah. And then you have social media. And social media, I think it puts a lot of pressure on a lot of these young kids, and I think it allows kids to get bullied 24/7 instead of just during school.
It can make them feel more better and have more friends.
So we got.
But it can also make them more lonely.
So we got a little off. Sure. We got a little off kilter there. His name is Duncan Lent, Battleborn Igloo, and we appreciate his time. And I want to go back to this protest, and I want to go back, if I may, Duncan, to that original question I asked you. There were thousands of people on the Strip a month ago. There have been plenty of protests in Las Vegas. It hasn't changed Governor Sisolak's mind. He says he's going to be speaking to the doctors, he's going to be speaking to the experts, and is going to be making his decisions methodically based on that. So my question again is, what good is it to have these protests? I mean, I understand you're exercising your right to do so, but in the end, what good is it doing? Because if it was doing any good, Governor Sisolak would have opened everything up by now, no?
Well, I see what you're saying. I think a big portion of it is that there's a lot of people that the reason why a lot of people go to the protest is because they have an opinion and then they feel as if they are alone on that, and that's why they go to these protests. They get these individuals together. You know, there's a lot of networking involved. There's at the last one from 2 weeks ago, there was a lot of local politicians that were there to make speeches and make statements. It gives them a chance to network. It gives people. And I think that's why a lot of people do go. I think some people do go because they hope that it will make a difference and that will convince, Sisolak to open up the state. I think some people like us go because we want to create a dialogue. We want to, discuss things with people. We're open to discussing our ideas and beliefs and opinions and listening to others as well. And I think that's the biggest part of the protest. I'm aware that a couple hundred people they're not going to change Sisolak's mind in a day.
So I want to distinguish this. I want to make this extremely clear. So it is safe to say, though, that you and your group, the members of you guys that were down there in military gear, right, and you were displaying your weapons, it wasn't necessarily about opening up the state of Nevada for you guys. It's more for you guys, it's more about the Second Amendment, right, and getting out your voice and your opinions when it comes to Second Amendment issues. Is that correct?
That's one of the reasons why we're there. The other reason is because we do believe in opening Nevada. We believe in letting people make the choice. If you want to go to work or if you want to go to a restaurant or business, you have that right. You can't make other people go, but making people stop going, forcing them not to go is very much not freedom, and that's what we don't believe. We do believe in opening up Nevada, but yes, we also do believe in exercising your Second Amendment rights.
All right. I mean, like I said, you understand the perception, and you described it, but the perception of some, not all, is they see you as a threat. They see somebody dressed up. They see somebody.
I don't want anybody to be afraid. I wish not anyone would look at us and be like, "Oh, no."
Listen, you sound like
they don't understand that Nevada is an open carry state.
So
if they have,
my opinion doesn't change.
If they have licenses for these weapons, if they can legally carry these weapons, now if this was a state that was not an open carry state, then obviously there would be a legitimate reason to think that there's a threat. But those that actually think that people like him are a threat don't really understand the laws of Nevada.
Okay, listen. The last time, my opinion has nothing to do with what JD just said. I went to Israel when I was a kid, and I saw a bunch of 16 and 17-year-olds with guns on their backs, and it was scary for me then, and it's still scary for me now. Now, listen, Duncan, make no mistake about it. You seem like a really nice guy. I'm not scared of you. Okay.
Were they threatening you? Were they intimidating you, and specifically you in any way, or was it just because you didn't understand the situation, and therefore you were terrified of what you did not know?
Well,
I've been to other countries,
here's why I'm okay. That's a lot
of times they're carrying weapons in full display, and I'm not.
Okay, very good question.
I knew that was.
Yeah.
I was not the threat to them.
Very good question. That's a very valid question. Let me answer it like this, Duncan, if I may. It's the same reason why if I'm in a bar, right? People are drinking, and as you know, bar fights happen all the time. When I see somebody, of course. When I see somebody with a gun, I'm not the same person. I like to get into it with people. I like to debate people, and sometimes I say offensive things. Okay.
Tell it's your personality.
Yeah, but
I can imagine if we were in a bar together, you would probably be asking questions about the hat I was wearing or the shirt.
Well, I don't know. Listen.
I can see that that's your personality, and I get it.
Well, listen. The first thing I said.
Someone else has a firearm and you don't.
Right.
That changes your personality or your perception of them and how you respond to them.
Well, listen. I respect you. I respect you a great deal for the sole sake, if not anything else, is that you serve this country honorably and you're a hero. And I would always tell you that, as I tell. Well, and you're a modest guy, and I appreciate that. But I'm just telling you, anybody that served this country honorably, I have a great amount of respect for. I really do. Now, I do, and you sound like a smart guy. We obviously disagree when it comes to some things with guns. We disagree a lot. No, I'm not going to walk into a bar and I'm not going to walk into a bar and the reason why I brought up the bar scenario is if somebody just has a gun there, it changes one's perception. Some people find it intimidating. Some people find it threatening. And I don't want to live in a world where everybody has their AR-15s out. Now, that's just my opinion.
Correct me if I'm wrong, bro. You just said that you enjoy being combative by nature. But if someone has a weapon in person and you will not be combative to that person.
Defensiveness is a defensive measure against other people who can be combative towards them. I'm not a large person. I'm not, I'm not 7 foot tall and 200 pounds of muscle. having a firearm is my defense measure against those who are much more larger than I am and that are combative or a person like another you. It's not meant to threaten others. It's just a line of
and listen, Duncan, and listen, that's you. All I'm saying is there are some people out there that might not be as bright as you, that might not be as responsible as guns as you are. But let me just say this in closing. I appreciate you coming on. I think it was a good spirited debate. I think we need to have more of these debates as a country. We might not always we might not always agree. Obviously, we don't agree on everything. But my take on you stands the same. I do think you're a hero. I think anybody that risks their lives for this country, for the sake of our freedoms, is a hero. So I appreciate your service, and I also really do appreciate you coming on and stating your case. And I have no problem with you going out there after talking with you. You seem like a smart guy, and I appreciate you taking the time to come on, my man. So thanks so much, Duncan. We appreciate you.
You let me come on, and I appreciate you being civil about it.
Absolutely. I appreciate it, Duncan. There you go.
Thanks a lot, Duncan. A lot of appreciation.
Yep, that's Duncan Lemp. Battleborn Eagle, he stated his case. We stated ours. Right. And now we're going to take your phone calls. 702-257-5396 is the number to call. Again, that number, if you want to be a part of the conversation, is 702-257-5396. We're also going to talk a little bit about the Carson City protest. Didn't go so well over there either. They think they could just take down the governor in a militia. We'll talk a little bit about that coming up. Also going to talk a little bit on a national scale, the things that Donald Trump said over the weekend about George W. Bush, about Abraham Lincoln. The guy is just the gift that keeps on giving, folks. It's unbelievable. He's like herpes. So we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about that. And, of course, this discussion with Duncan Lemp, your thoughts on that as well. Again, that number, 702-257-5396 is the number to call if you want to be a part of the conversation. If it's busy, keep on trying at 257-5396. So we will take a quick break, and we will be back right after this with your phone calls. This is the Vegas Take on 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDAWN.
Would you get on an airplane if you knew it had a 50% chance of crashing? You may be riding that plane right now. If you have your money in a 401k or IRA and you plan to take out the recommended percentage each year when you retire, your chance of running out of money is 50%. 50%. But there's a better and safer way to secure your income in retirement. Discover how in a free book called Rescue Your Retirement. This wealth building strategy has never had a losing year in more than a century. In fact, even the man who invented the 401k now prefers this method instead. Get Rescue Your Retirement free for just a small shipping charge and enjoy a safe landing and a comfortable retirement. Get this free book and make sure you don't run out of money. Hurry, this offer is extremely limited. To get your free copy, just go to growwealthsafely.com. That's growwealthsafely.com to discover how to rescue your retirement. growwealthsafely.com.
Your home for Sean Hannity, KDWN Las Vegas, KKLZ HD2 Las Vegas, a Beasley Media Group station.
Donald Trump administration document projects that even while many states are reopening, the administration believes the daily death toll from coronavirus will nearly double to 3,000 daily deaths by the 1st of June. The New York Times reports the data is from the CDC. St. Louis Mayor Lyda Krewson is not ready to reopen.
We are very concerned that we continue to see a decrease in the number of hospitalizations before we are able to go back to work.
New York Governor Andrew Cuomo admits at some point you have to reopen.
This is not a sustainable situation. Close down everything, close down the economy, lock yourself in the home. You can do it for a short period of time, but you can't do it forever.
Chief Justice Roberts wrapped up the first Supreme Court argument by phone today with the words, "The case is submitted." I'm Mike Moss. The Senate is back in session today, even as Washington, D.C. remains under a stay-at-home order due to the coronavirus.
This is the first time the full Senate is back in D.C. since late March. The return comes as Senator Rand Paul, several staffers, and Capitol Police officers all tested positive for coronavirus. While the Senate is back in town, the House is not. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi cites a warning from the Capitol physician who said it was not safe for all of the members to return at this time, given their sheer numbers, including the staff and support personnel required to make the House run. A return date for the House is not yet set. Linda Kenyon, Washington.
The Smithfield Foods shuttered Sioux Falls, South Dakota pork processing plant is trying to reopen today, but 800 employees have been infected there. The meat processing plants across the country are cautiously reopening at the order of President Trump. The Dow down almost 1%. I'm Mike Moss.
Maybe you can relate to this. A lot of people think they're stuck with their health plan. It costs too much, or for whatever reason, they just don't like it. The great news, you are not stuck with it. There is.
It's time to check the roads.
From the Lerner and Rowe Traffic Studio.
This report sponsored by ExpressPros.com. Eastern Avenue still closed between St. Louis Avenue and Oakey Boulevard for an ongoing fire investigation. Use an alternate to get around the closure like Maryland Parkway or Boulder Highway instead. Elsewhere, a crash on Sahara west of I-15. In that case, use Charleston or Desert Inn instead. And a serious crash, I-15 northbound in California between Baker and Halloran Springs. Right 2 lanes are blocked because of an accident involving 2 big rigs. This is an ongoing accident. Need to manage changing workforce? It's time to get to know Express Employment Professionals. Find a location near you at expresspros.com. John Michaels from the KDON Traffic Center.
Get the rest you deserve with Helix Sleep. Helix makes personalized mattresses to fit your unique body type and sleep preferences and give you the best sleep of your life. Go to helixsleep.com and get up to $200 off mattress orders.
Sleeping with CPAP can mean waking and hearing.
Hun, there's a ring around your face.
Or,
Dad, what's up with your face?
if you stopped wearing CPAP because of marks and rashes, now there's Inspire. Inspire is a sleep apnea treatment that works inside your body with just the click of a remote. That's right, a button. If you're struggling with CPAP, visit InspireSleep.com. Inspire. Sleep apnea innovation. No mask, no hose, just sleep.
Talk to your doctor to see if Inspire is right for you. Review important safety information at InspireSleep.com.
Sometimes you hear an idea or learn about a company and say, finally, it's about time. That's what I said when I met the team at Homey. With Homey, you get a local real estate expert and everything you expect with a traditional agent. Everything except those high fees and commissions. Homey sellers save $10,000 on average. Finally, you can buy and sell confidently and save thousands in good times and bad. Check out Homey.com or just text JD to 88588 to receive $250 off your listing fee. Homey sellers save $10,000 on average, and if you're buying a home, you'll save even more. Remember, you still get a 5-star experience with your local Homey agent and an easy-to-use app, all without the crazy commissions. Text JD to 88588 to receive $250 off your listing fee. Again, text JD to 88588. Finally, you can buy and sell confidently and save thousands in good times and bad. Homey's got your back.
SportsX Radio Nation, what's up? It's Ken Thompson, host of SportsX Radio, reminding you to catch me at my new time, 8 to 10 p.m. for all the local Vegas sports coverage, plus the national scene as well. That's SportsX Radio on the new 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDWN.
We've always had villains to face.
But you are the most horrible of all. We all have the power to do something.
To stand up to cancer.
Stand up to fight. Stand up to win. Visit standuptocancer.org to learn more.
101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDON, the talk of Las Vegas. The opinions of the hosts on KDWN are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of this station, its management, or Beasley Media Group.
Hello, everyone. This is President Trump, the greatest president in the history of presidents. And the only show I listen to is the top-rated show, Sharp and Shapiro. They are the best.
Right now, the day's biggest news stories from a Vegas perspective. This is the Vegas Take with Sharp and Shapiro.
All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take. Sharp and Shapiro coming at you live on a Monday. We'll get to your phone calls here in just a few minutes at 257-5396. And you know what? We've been talking about the protest that happened here in Las Vegas. How about what happened in Carson City? Well, there's a group called the Proud Boys, leaders of a regularly white nationalist group. They are known as a hate group, known extremist, known for anti-Muslim and misogynistic rhetoric. They've appeared alongside other hate groups at extremist gatherings as well. They're just horrible people. Horrible, racist, disgusting human beings. And yes, they happen to be wearing their Make America Great Again hats. I'm not shocked by that. Wow, what a shocker. They weren't wearing any Joe Biden hats. Geez, I'm just shocked. Anyway, they tried to storm into the governor's mansion. They tried a security breach. They were almost successful, but the SWAT team had to be called out, and they were held back. These people are some of the dumbest people in society. Some of the dumbest. And if they're going to go on that property and do what they do, they all should have been arrested as far as I'm concerned. They wasted taxpayer money. They wasted time, and now the governor had to be escorted out of his own home. It is disgusting. It is despicable, and nobody, and I mean nobody, should be okay with that. Now, while all this was going on in Carson City, all this, Michigan Governor Whitmer was condemning some of those same extremists in her own city at a protest after Trump said that these people were very good people whom she should negotiate with. This is Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer. Have a listen to this.
Some of the outrageousness of what happened at our Capitol this week, depicted some of the worst racism and awful parts of our history in this country. The Confederate flags and nooses, the swastikas, the, behavior that you've seen in all of the clips is not representative of who we are in Michigan.
Well, that's for sure. Certainly, at least I hope not. Do you remember Donald Trump back in 2017 when he talked about the people in Charlottesville where one person was killed by a right-wing extremist? Have a listen to this.
And you had some very bad people in that group, but you also had people that were very fine people on both sides. You had people in that group, excuse me, I saw the same pictures as you did. You had people in that group that were there to protest the taking down of, to them, a very, very important statue and the renaming of a park from Robert E. Lee to another name.
Yeah, very, very fine people on both sides. Well, the president, the reason why we played that clip, the president is now calling those people in Michigan, some of those people who had swastikas, some of those people who had extreme views, very good people. Ladies and gentlemen, nobody should be okay with that. Everybody should call out white supremacy. Everybody should call out anybody who glorifies Nazis. But the president doesn't seem to do that. He called those people very good people, and that the governor should negotiate with them. Completely absurd. We're going to take your phone calls right now. 702-257-5396. Again, that number, if you want to be a part of the conversation, is 257-5396. Let's start off with Robert. Robert, you're first up. What's going on?
What's up, Robert?
Yes. Good morning, gentlemen. How are you?
Good.
Doing okay.
Usually side with you, JD, but I'm going to disagree on one thing.
That's fine.
This upcoming election, and you're saying the governors are going to try to make it look.
Yeah, I think they're slow playing. I think they're slow playing the economy. They're stalling the opening of the economy. I do believe that.
I kind of think anybody who has half a brain knows that the economy right now dumping is not Trump's fault, and I think the election is going to be more about China and Biden's nice relationship with China.
Well, that'll definitely be part of the conversation as well. But I do believe, and you talk about, Chris, we had the conversation about it not being political. Then why, if it's not political, did Colorado, Washington, California, Nevada, and Oregon enter into a Western Pact agreement when Utah and Arizona are bordering Nevada and they weren't included because they're all Democratic governors?
Well, I can quickly.
Why are Democratic states not opening up and Republican states are? Like, for example, in Ohio, Mike DeWine says 90% of the economy will be up. No. Okay,
ask me the question, but you're not going to let me answer.
Well, it was
the
rhetorical.
answer is that I don't know why Colorado.
It was a rhetorical question.
To me, it's more of a regional. No, but you asked me a question, and then you
right,
decide to answer it for me and put words in my mouth. The reason why Colorado is in it, I don't know. It's not part of the West Coast region. Colorado should be part of the Southwest region, with states like Texas and Oklahoma,
is it reasonable,
Utah, and Arizona. So that's my answer.
So is it reasonable to assume that they're in it because they have a Democratic governor?
No,
because they have the same political beliefs?
I don't understand.
Well, then why are they in it? And Utah's not, and Arizona's
not. I'll say it again for you, JD, and I'll say it out loud for the cheap seats, okay? I don't understand why politics is involved with dealing with a global pandemic. I don't understand that. I don't think it should be. I think that people should be making decisions based on their public health experts, scientists, researchers, etc., who have some expertise in this area and not political decisions.
What about told you that
okay?
Steve Sisolak's public
Plain
experts in Nevada, the top one doesn't have his license, and the majority of those
you want to talk about credibility then?
No,
talk about credibility.
We will. Just listen.
All right.
And the majority of those actually did contribute to Steve Sisolak's last campaign.
All right.
Now,
so now you want to talk about
those are the experts in Nevada that are making the decision as to open up the economy.
First of all, he doesn't have one or two people that are talking to him. He has hundreds of people that he talks to on a regular basis. So he's not making a decision based on that one person. And if you want to go after that person's credibility, in my personal opinion, that is a separate issue. There are hundreds of people that he is talking to on a regular basis, by the way, including casino owners and including small business owners. Let's get back to the phone calls now. 702-257-5396. Let's go to John. John, you're next up on the Vegas Take.
Hey, what's up, John?
Hey, man. I hope what I'm about to say is not true, but I think you guys just got played. I think Duncan, your guest name was Duncan Lemp.
Lemp.
Yes. Lemp, yeah, Duncan Lemp.
I mean, one of the coincidences that there was a militia guy killed a month ago in Maryland named Duncan Lemp, and your guest is named Duncan Lemp.
Well, here's what I can tell you. In regards to that. I was at the protest over the weekend. Mm-hmm. I saw those 5 people that were dressed the way they were. I had a conversation with them. I gave them my business cards. They said somebody would get back to me. One of them would get back to me. One of them did. Now, I thought he was a pretty well-spoken guy. I didn't think it was funny at all. I thought it was a decent interview, actually, if you listen to it.
And he wasn't pushing any extremist views at all, actually. He said he wasn't even part of a militia. I asked that question, John, specifically because I've been told from a couple of different sources that there are militias in Nevada, that are looking at basically a coup of the governor.
And by the way, that's the name he gave us. So we're going to use the name he gave us, sir. If you okay.
Just do a quick Google search, Duncan Lemp.
And what good's that going to do?
What? Killed in March
So what?
In Maryland.
Okay.
All right, my producer will get right on that. I appreciate the phone call, sir. 702.
I think it's possible in a country of 330 million people that there are two Duncan Lemps.
I think that is very possible.
I think it's possible.
702. Yes, me and JD agree. 702-257-5396 is the number to call. Let's go to Malik. Malik, you are next up on the Vegas Take. What's up, Malik?
Hey, what's up, Malik?
Yeah, what's up, fellas? Yeah, so JD, I don't know, that Kool-Aid Trump gives you is so good. But in the meantime, that Duncan, or that kid that was supposed to be a patriot, I was in the service, and I got son-in-laws in the service. When you in the military, you carry around these arms. You got to do bivouacs. You got to go out and do exercises. You get tired. That's not fun to be carrying around weapons. But the kid, he actually showed you what he was all about. He's a coward. He said because guys that are bigger than him and people intimidate him, and when he carries that weapon, it makes him feel.
It's an equalizer. He said it was an equalizer. He did say that, yeah.
And you got a lot of guys, these so-called militias, like JD implied that these are militia guys who want to raid the government mansion and take. Oh, go ahead and see how quick the special forces.
Well, and I would have actually, Malik, had he said he was part of a militia, I would have asked that question. Are you in touch with other militias, and are you hearing the same? Because again, I'm not just making that up, Malik. That is a conversation.
Well, as the one person, by the way, who actually was in the military, that's a host right now in this, I can understand the caller. I can understand what you're saying there. I don't know. I calling him a coward, I think, is going a little bit too far. But I do understand your point. I do get your point.
And it would be different if this was an open carry state.
Go ahead, Malik.
I'm just saying open carry. I understand it, but in a lot of these situations, like me being I'm a vet. I don't want to just put on a uniform to walk in front of the stage of protest.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, if somebody actually would rush him with an AR-15.
Malik, can I just say this, Malik? Malik, I think you'll agree with me on this. Guns should not be to make people feel better. Okay, guns are not like getting breast implants to give you more confidence. Okay, that's not why people should buy guns. Not to make themselves have a higher. Okay, I'm bald. I'm not so insecure about the fact that I'm bald that I'm going to go to the gun store and buy some rounds of ammunition and buy a gun. Yes, I understand it's about defending yourself, but you don't buy a gun because there's somebody that weighs 200 pounds more than you. You buy a gun to defend yourself.
Or your family.
Or your family.
Or your home or your
Malik,
property.
Malik, we're always on the same page, my friend. I appreciate thank you for your service as always. 257-5396 is the number to call. Let's go to Tom. Tom, you're next up on the Vegas Take. What's going on?
Hey, what's up, Tom?
I tell you what, I just love liberals.
in an answer to whether this is political or not, when the Republicans send a clean bill to basically fund all the small business owners,
right.
Why did it take 2 weeks? Because the Democrats wanted to make it political and put 3 more pieces of bullshit.
Okay, watch your language. You know what? I love.
Call was going.
I love. Hold on, let's keep him on.
Cannot swear.
Okay, let's keep him on. Are you still there, sir?
Yes, I am.
Okay, I love callers who call into a show and swear and don't know how to have good language. That's number one. Number two, well, I accept your apology. Number two, who's the liberal that you're talking about?
Yeah,
Nancy
you're talking
Pelosi.
about me?
He's talking about Nancy Pelosi.
I just want to know who you're talking
No,
about.
I think he's talking about us on the air. Yeah.
Liberals in general.
Okay.
You know, I was a hospital corpsman over in Vietnam. And that word is corpsman, not corpsman for some people. I sit back and I look at what's going on in this country.
Yep.
And it's really frustrating.
So, Tom, does the President of the United States...
and Republicans
Good.
are a bunch of fools.
Okay, there's where we agree, Tom. I'm glad you said that. I agree with you. I think both sides are. There's a lot of fools on both sides of the equation. I agree with you. With that being said, does the President of the United States get you as frustrated as liberals?
Does the president? No.
So you think the president's doing a great job?
The president upset me.
Yeah.
I watched the balance of power of this country go to hell in a handbasket with the last moron we had as president.
So Barack Obama's a moron, but the president doesn't bother you.
No. I mean, during Obama's administration...
That's very... I don't want to go into Obama's administration. No, hold on. I don't want to...
Well, I know you don't want to hear about Obama.
Well,
he was perfect.
Hold on a second, Chris.
He made a ridiculous
Hold on a
statement.
second.
Well, you have to
hold on a second. You got it. Okay, I am going to address
it. Obama an idiot, but he can't Trump.
Sir, it's my turn now. I never said Obama was perfect. I didn't vote for Barack Obama. You make an ass out of yourself when you assume something like that. I'm not a liberal. I'm not a Democrat. The reason why I bring up Donald Trump, the reason why I bring up people annoy me when they're interrupting me, callers like you, sir. Please wait. I know liberals annoy you. A lot of people that swear on call into a show annoy me. Okay, I don't like Donald Trump. There's a lot of different reasons why I don't like it. But how do you defend the fact that Donald Trump goes after, war service, war heroes? How do you defend the fact that he goes after women based on looks? How do you defend the fact that he makes it all about himself every single day? But you don't have any disparaging things to say about Donald Trump, but you want to call Barack Obama a moron. I didn't think Barack Obama was a great president, but I'll tell you one thing Barack Obama was and still is: a good husband, a good father. And if he had these press conferences, the coronavirus press conferences, he probably wouldn't tell people to inject Lysol either. So why don't you start by criticizing the man who is in charge right now, and then if you want to trickle down the list of the last president, that's fine. But let's start with Donald Trump, sir, with all due respect.
Sure. What do you find objectionable about him?
All right, get rid of this guy. I just named 5 things. Goodbye, jackass.
That was a horrible phone call, Brian.
Terrible.
You know what, Tom? That was a good call.
It was a horrendous call.
I enjoyed it.
The guy just has nothing in his brain. 702-257-5396 is the number to call. Let's go to Glenn. Glenn, you're next up on the Vegas Take.
Hey, what's up, Glenn?
Hey, not much. How you doing?
Doing okay.
I just wanted to say probably I disagree with both of you from one standpoint, and this is just about protests in general. I don't think it matters how many people are at a protest.
I agree.
I don't care if it's 2 people or 2,000.
Glenn, I agree. We agree. I'm just talking about, I think we agree, Glenn. I'm just talking about it was a bad showing. But listen, make no mistake about it, Glenn. If there's 10,000 people on the Strip or 10 people, it's not going to change the governor's decision. Glenn, we agree.
Yeah, I think just for the person doing the protesting, is sometimes it's just a way to show how you feel about something, and you probably know that no one's going to change.
Well, and Glenn, what else are you supposed to do on a Saturday in lockdown? There's not exactly a lot of other options to do.
Well, I'll tell you what you shouldn't do.
Well, drink Lysol and
Glenn, I appreciate you, man.
Inject Clorox.
I'll tell you what you shouldn't do. And I'm not saying necessarily people did this on Saturday, but there have been protests in Las Vegas and throughout the country. You shouldn't be not practicing social distancing. You shouldn't be bringing Confederate flags to an event, and you shouldn't make it a political rally for Donald Trump.
Did you shake anybody's hand there, Brett?
Absolutely not.
Did you fist bump anybody?
No, I didn't.
You didn't fist bump?
I didn't fist bump one person.
Not one person.
Not one person.
You didn't make any physical,
I swear to God,
any physical contact with anyone there that you didn't know.
I'm going to say very clearly to you, I swear to God on the life of me and my family, I didn't fist bump one person. I wouldn't touch any of those dirty Donald Trump supporters.
Were you wearing a mask?
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
And by the way, the fact that you brought, I'm so glad you brought that up.
I'm just asking you.
Well, I'm so glad you brought that up because some people don't understand, because other people don't understand what the social distancing rules and regulations. The social distancing rules and regulations in the state of Nevada are as follows. You don't have to wear a mask. What you do need to do is practice social distancing of up to 6 feet or more and no more than 10 people. I was practicing social distancing. I wouldn't want to be 60 feet next to any of those Trump support idiots that were out there. That's number two. And number three, the fact that people say, oh, Brian, you weren't wearing a mask. Now, I could be asymptomatic, but I was tested unlike probably anybody else at that rally. I was tested as negative.
You could have picked up the virus.
And you know what? It's very possible. And that's why
the only thing you need to be tested for, honestly, at this point, if you don't have symptoms, is the antibody test.
All right, very possible.
Otherwise, it is totally irrelevant.
Very possible, but you're not painting me in a corner. I was practicing social distancing.
You could be at the end of it, you could be, or you could pick it up the next day. Right. Testing asymptomatic cases across the country is an act of futility. It is an extremely expensive act of futility. It makes no sense whatsoever, and that's what some governors are doing now, including our governor in Nevada. When we had an increase of about 220 cases 3 days ago. Well, we also tested 5,000 people that day, and you look at the hospitals, people are being literally asked not to go to work right now. There's not an overflow in hospitals. The main issue was worrying about the hospitals being overrun, right? Okay. First of all, we were going to stop the spread for 15 days, right? Then we're going to flatten the curve. And now we have to basically eradicate the virus. And that extension, that goalpost being moved, that is a prime example of why people across the country think this has become political. There's a lot of economies right now that could and should be opened up. You've got 400,000 people in Nevada right now that don't have jobs. They could become homeless. You do have a moratorium on rent, but what does that mean? That means if you don't pay rent for 3 months, on that fourth month, you have to pay all your rent at once. What person can do that? Nobody under those circumstances. Well, so then you're going to have those people who get evicted from their homes in a couple of months. They're going to become homeless. Now, what are the chances of getting the virus if you're homeless? Much higher than they are if you don't have a home, than if you have a home to live in. So you're going to have this vicious cycle, along with the fact that a lot of Nevada is armed. Police officers, and I talked to one on Saturday, he told me verbatim. He said, when this first started, a lot of the force, we understood that we were concerned that this was going to be a huge issue. Now we're very confused as to why the entire state is still in lockdown. We understand why the Strip is shut down because the traffic isn't there, but local businesses should be open. And that conversation, that thought process is being spread like wildfire.
The police officer
throughout Las Vegas.
The police officer that you spoke to might be the same police officer that told Wayne Allen Root that 10,000 people were on the Strip a few weeks ago. 702-257-5396 is the number to call. Let's go to Rose. Rose, you're next up on the Vegas take. What's going on?
Hey, what's up, Rose?
Good morning, guys. I got to say that I totally agree with JD. I'm sorry, JD, sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
But on what you've been talking about the protest, I was at that protest on the Strip when they said there was only 100 people there. Now, I don't think there was 10,000 people, but I guarantee you there was more than 500 people.
I was there.
Are you talking about Saturday? Are you talking about the one on Saturday?
She's talking about the Strip before, the one before.
Okay, you're talking about the one before.
You're not talking about this weekend, then.
Rose, my apologies. Okay, Rose, I owe you.
Yeah.
Rose, I owe you an apology.
Brian got really excited about that. Rose, he felt good about himself that he was right.
If I can speak,
good for you, Brian.
If I can speak for a second, Rose, I owe you an apology. Rose, stay on the line. I owe you an apology. I thought you were talking about what took place on Saturday. Okay, I agree with you. By the way, in fact, police are on record as saying there were under 1,000 cars. So you're right.
Okay. No, and I'm just saying what I saw, and I can only base anything what I see. And
well, you're right.
And I can tell you that when JB is talking about people thinking this is political, I'll tell you why. Because of the fact that there's not that many cases, and they said they're going to do it, the hospitals were overwhelmed. Just what he's been saying is all true, and everybody I've talked to feels that way. Now, I'm out here all day long working with these people, and everybody is fed up. Everybody wants this to be open. Maybe they're not.
So because everybody's fed up, that's a reason to open up?
Listen.
Well, okay. I'm trying to.
You might think I'm trash. Okay?
No, I don't think you're trash.
He thinks you're biased.
JD doesn't speak for me. Go ahead.
I stayed my distance like I'm supposed to.
Okay.
I'm saying everything I'm supposed to.
Okay.
But the people are out there because they believe in the president. Now, I have a girlfriend of mine. Actually, I have two, but I have one that specifically said to me just the other day, I did not vote for President Trump, but I guarantee you I'm voting for him next time. And
Okay.
the reason I am, not because of his mouth, because me and her both agree sometimes he puts a few stuff that I don't like, is because
Sometimes.
he's the best man to put the economy back on the right track.
He's the best man. All right, let's go with that. Let's go with
Now
that.
I have to start
No,
laughing.
Okay,
Yeah, now I can start laughing.
I have to interject.
We had
Absolutely start laughing.
We had the best economy
Can I
in
interject?
American history 2 months ago,
Okay,
Chris.
so can I interject?
Why would you not think
If
that he
I
could do it again?
Okay, if I can interject and talk to Rose for a second. Rose, what specific policies has he put into place to make this?
There's a million things I could point
Okay,
out,
I'll ask
JD.
it again.
That's why.
Okay, I'll ask it again. What specific policies, Rose, has the president put in place to really turn this economy around? And do you give Obama any credit for when he took over to where we are now?
Lifting all the restrictions on the company is, I think, a big one. Helping us with our taxes was another. I know I'm making one.
Where was the economy when he took over compared to where Obama took over 11 years ago?
I think that maybe the first part of the year maybe was something to do with Obama, but you can't say that.
No, there was some. But see, now you're laughing. You're just
I'm laughing because people don't know what they're talking about.
Barack Obama's economy, it went up, down, and almost 30%. And then there was almost 100 million people in the United States that were on welfare during it, Chris.
We can't yell over each other because I don't know what.
A lot of that economy was held up by people that were getting paid by the government to use their money from the government to not work, to spend into the economy. Donald Trump's economy is that people are actually working.
Right when I actually start speaking, JD just starts talking over me every single time today. Every single time.
I apologize.
Go ahead.
The reason why I'm laughing, JD, is because people are speaking and they don't have a grasp of the facts. They are not speaking, with knowledge of actually what has happened. What the caller was talking about when lifting restrictions, she's right. When we're talking, what she's talking about is the tax plan of 2017, December of 2017, where there were a number of measures taken, by Republicans in Congress. All right, it was pushed through. It was pushed through in a nuclear fashion by Republicans in Congress. It wasn't Donald Trump's some master plan when it comes to economics and the economy. That's not what it was. So I'm obviously going very fast here because I'm getting a break signal. Okay, I don't have an opportunity here to describe in detail why that's not correct, that Donald Trump is some mastermind when it comes to the economy. I will just state that what she's referring to is the tax plan of 2017, and that's what it is.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. We'll continue this conversation on the other side. The number to call, 702-257-5396. Again, that number, 257-5396. What did President Trump say about George W. Bush and Abraham Lincoln? You might be a little surprised. We'll get to that coming up next. You're listening to The Vegas Take.
This is the story of Julie Guillaume. She's a Leukemia and Lymphoma Society advocate and the mother of a child who battled blood cancer.
Zach was diagnosed with AML, a deadly leukemia, when he was only 5. He died at just 9 years old, really from the treatment that was meant to save him.
Today, the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society is pioneering breakthrough treatments for kids with cancer. Visit LLS.org and save a child's life. Furnished by LLS.
While you can't believe everything on social media these days, you can believe it's possible to start a new life as an IT pro in as little as 4 months from the comfort of your own home, even if you have zero computer experience. Instead of waiting to see what happens when life gets back to normal, take control of your future now. Go to mycomputercareer.edu and take the free career evaluation today. Live online classes meet just twice a week. It's not rocket science. It's mycomputercareer.edu.
America's dairy farmers won't go to waste. It is donating 200,000 gallons of milk to food banks. Kroger says it'll direct the milk to Feeding America food banks and community organizations. Correspondent Jeremy Diamond reports the administration is mulling another major relief package for business and workers.
President Trump's chief economic advisor, Larry Kudlow, said the Trump administration is going to be taking the next couple of weeks to determine whether additional financial stimulus from the federal government is needed and what form that financial stimulus will indeed take.
Tyson Foods is warning today that it expects more meat plant closures this year. Company says it's due to workers who don't want to come in during the pandemic. And Costco has become the largest retailer in the nation to impose limits on meat purchases. The Dow down 1%. I'm Mike Morris.
It's time to check the roads.
From the Lerner and Rowe Traffic Studio.
This report sponsored by ExpressPros.com. A fire hazard investigation wrapping up at Eastern Avenue at Oakey Boulevard, and looks like all the lanes are reopening. Watch for police presence in the area of Sahara at Rancho. For a hit-and-run accident investigation, looks like that is also wrapping up. And debris to watch for on the 95 southbound at Lake Mead Boulevard. Need to manage a changing workforce? It's time to get to know Express Employment Professionals. Find a location near you at expresspro.com. I'm John Michaels from the KDON Traffic Center.
These are worrisome times, causing a lot of stress and concern, and being in debt to the IRS can certainly make matters worse. Thankfully, there's good news. Optima Tax Relief can help you resolve your tax debt over the phone and online. Don't go it alone. Optima's tax professionals can reduce the stress in your life by helping resolve your IRS problems right from the comfort of your own home. Optima is America's most trusted tax resolution firm, having resolved over $1 billion in tax debt for their clients. And their award-winning team is ready to help you online and over the phone, even during these uncertain times. They'll stand between you and the IRS and fight to get you the best deal possible. All it takes is one call to start the process. Optima's tax associates are standing by. Take the first step toward putting your tax problems to rest. Call now for a free consultation.
Call 800-709-6011. That's 800-709-6011. 800-709-6011.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Listen to the Texas Corners Bible Church every Saturday night at 11 p.m. and Sunday night at 10 p.m. on 101.5 FM, 720 a.m. KDON.
Mark Levin, weekdays 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Now back to the Vegas Take on 101.5 FM, 720 a.m. KDON.
All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro. We got Chris Wynn in as well. We're going to take more of your phone calls coming up here in a little bit. Your thoughts on the protests, particularly those over the weekend in Vegas, those in Carson City. Your thoughts on Donald Trump. Your thoughts on the Michigan protest with Whitmer and her comments in regards to Donald Trump saying those were very good people and wanting her to sit down with them. Some of those people with Nazi flags and Confederate flags. And now, and we'll take your phone calls at 702-257.
I never actually saw any of that, Brian. There was actually Nazi and Confederate flags.
What were they doing? Nooses out there. There was nooses too, right?
Let me just give out that number again. 702-257-5396. Yes, there were Confederate flags out there. There are pictures of Nazis out there that were trying to storm, and some of them almost were successful in storming to the Capitol. Donald Trump said those were very good people. In an early morning tweet on Sunday, Trump called out George W. Bush for his failure to support him, as he faced an impeachment trial. He cited apparent comments from Fox News anchor Pete Hegseth, who asked why Bush didn't push for putting partisanship aside amid the trial. Trump said he was nowhere to be found in speaking up against the greatest hoax in American history. That's what Donald Trump said, and he tweeted it out. Well, I was never a big George W. Bush guy for a lot of different reasons. But George W. Bush put out a video asking Americans to set aside politics during this pandemic, and I want you to have a listen to this.
Let us remember how small our differences are in the face of this shared threat. In the final analysis, we are not partisan combatants. We are human beings, equally vulnerable and equally wonderful in the sight of God. We rise or fall together, and we are determined to rise. God bless you all.
Yeah, there you go. And then Donald Trump, the same day that George W. Bush puts this video out, Donald Trump decides to go on the attack, making it all about him, saying, where was he during the greatest hoax in American history, you buffoon? And then Trump is talking about Abraham Lincoln over the weekend. It doesn't end there, folks. On Fox News yesterday, he said he's been treated worse than Abraham Lincoln. Have a listen to this.
I am greeted with a hostile press, the likes of which no president has ever seen. The closest would be that gentleman right up there. They always said Lincoln, nobody got treated worse than Lincoln. I believe I am treated worse. You're there, you see those press conferences. They come at me with questions that are disgraceful, to be honest, disgraceful. Their manner of presentation and their words. And I feel that if I was kind to them, I'd be walked off the stage.
Hey, dope, open up a history book. Abraham Lincoln was shot in the head and assassinated, you dope! We'll take your phone call. 702. We'll take your phone call. No, completely necessary.
Anyways, you're right, though. Abraham Lincoln was clearly murdered.
But JD,
while he was president, while watching a play, Donald Trump is still alive. He is not dead, but he has been treated very, very poorly by the media.
Oh, woe is me.
So let me ask you a question, JD.
Obviously, that is an exaggeration. He has not been treated worse than Abraham Lincoln because, again, Abraham Lincoln was murdered, and Donald Trump has not been murdered.
Well, let me pose a question quickly to you,
though,
JD. The question of what Donald Trump talked about. Do you think that the press poses disgraceful questions to the president of the United States? Do you think that's the case? Do you think the press is way out of line in their questioning when they talk to him at these press conferences?
On a consistent basis.
What's next? You going to say JFK?
So you absolutely think that? Brian, he just said he agrees.
I know.
With that.
I heard. I want to get to some of the callers and get their take. Obviously, I completely disagree.
Out loud.
I've said that many times.
Well, what's next?
Donald
Trump's going to say he was treated worse than JFK. That's
especially right now when it should be all about uniting, not placing blame on Donald Trump.
Let's take some calls.
Or whoever. We should get through this, get the economy back, get our country operating in. But it looks to me like the real goal here is winning the 2020 election and making Donald Trump look bad by having a poor economy, and then trying to convince the American public that it's his fault for the economy being poor, for all the death toll, and for all the jobs that have been lost.
I think the real goal
is the reasonable it's a reasonable the sequence that's going to take place as far as the Democrats and the left-wing media goes.
On the contrary, I would say the goal of Donald Trump is to make himself look good every single day, every single second, and every single minute. He makes it about him. He made it about him when George W. Bush...
That has nothing to do with this.
Okay, it has everything to do with it. It has everything to do with it, and it has everything to do with his presidency. Every day he doesn't have empathy for others, and he makes it about himself. It has everything to do with the reason why I am not a Donald Trump supporter. It's not about us. It's always about him. He proved it over the weekend. Let's feel sorry for him comparing to Abraham Lincoln. Hang on. Let's feel sorry for him and say he was treated worse than a man who was assassinated, who ended slavery. Okay?
I already agreed with you on
that. And let's double down on that, and let's attack George W. Bush, who made a very, very heartfelt video not making it about politics. Because why? He didn't hear from George W. Bush when he was impeached. It's ridiculous. 702-257-5396. Let's get to Jim. Jim, you're next up on the Vegas Take. What's going on?
Hey, what's up, Jim?
Good morning. Good morning.
What's up?
I'd like to focus on one point. The tweets of liberating Michigan, right there. The trouble that he started is what we are seeing right now with the protests. I'm a gun owner. I am not a conservative. But I got to tell you, if I were the governor, I don't even know the lady's name that is the governor
Her name is Gretchen Whitmer.
But if I were sitting at her table looking out her window at some fella carrying an AR-15, yeah, that would get my attention in a hurry. Open carry, open. This is a recipe for disaster.
But you know what? You make a very good point, and I want to stay on the line here for a second. When Trump is asked to take any responsibility for literally anything negative that happens, he doesn't. What you're saying about liberate Michigan, you are 100% right, sir. He takes nothing. What would happen if somebody was hurt or even killed? Would he take any responsibility?
Well, I think that's what's going to happen probably in the near future.
So liberate states is smart.
If these
protests continue, I agree with you.
Not if these tweets, but if the governors don't change their approach and people keep getting out of work and in some cases checks aren't coming to them from the unemployment office, I think that a lot of this is going to continue. And the next step could be something happening between the people that are protecting the governors and those who are placing themselves there.
Well, go ahead, caller.
That could easily happen.
No. This was started by a guy at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue with his tweets, and he's speaking to his base, whatever you want to call these people nowadays. You can't be of sound mind if you're walking around out in front of the governor's residence of any state armed to the teeth as a civilian.
Agreed.
I mean, this just doesn't play. And now the latest...
Again, it depends on if it's an open carry state or not.
We're going to have the same thing in Wisconsin, and we have this is from the White House, from his press secretary, and we have a rich benefactor who's going to pay everybody's legal fees. This is inciting insurrection. Sooner or later, this is going to boil over.
Oh, do you remember? If you recall, when he was on the campaign trail? Well, I'd love to knock that guy out. You know what? If you rough him up, I'll pay for his legal fees. Funny, you don't hear Republicans ever bring that up. You're absolutely right, sir. Fantastic call.
Good call, but why are we not talking about Huntington Beach and Sacramento? Why are we not talking about probably the 10,000 that converged on Huntington Beach this weekend to protest Orange County? The beach is being shut down, and none of them were practicing social distancing. Why are we not talking about that?
Well, we could talk about that, but we certainly we're the Vegas take in the first hour of the program. We want to focus on your protest where only 100 people showed up. Yeah, I mean, you're the one who promoted it. We spoke about it. It was an embarrassing turnout.
I talked about it one time. On air. You actually asked me not to talk about it. I promised you guys I wouldn't talk about it, and you actually brought it up after I promised I wouldn't talk about it. Had I spoken about it every single day,
administrator on the page,
it would have been a much better turnout. Had I been involved in the organization, it would have been a much better turnout.
You are involved.
It will be in a couple of weeks. But you're making it seem like I really pushed this thing hard. I didn't push this hard, Brian.
I will gladly talk about
it. I didn't push it hard. I talked about it one time. But I want to know
you asked me why we didn't talk about it.
In California, there were at least 20 to 25,000 protesters this weekend.
Then
in well-to-do areas, and actually people did show up to the Sacramento Capitol in California, and there was one woman who had a baby, and there was 10 or 12 people dressed up like SWAT that were in front of her trying to mess with her kid, and a Marine got on the actual microphone and basically asked them, who was part of the protest, and basically asked them to stand down. Why are we not talking about all that stuff? Why are we talking about
social distancing?
I mean, this is happening all over the country. Why? Because there are 32.6 million people in the United States that are out of work.
Let Chris respond.
And a lot of these people aren't going to get their jobs back.
Okay.
JD, if anybody is not practicing social distancing guidelines, I don't care what you're protesting or what the political issue is. It's wrong, okay? Yes, I mean, we can talk about California, but obviously we don't have time to talk about every protest all over the country.
Now, let me ask you this.
We don't have the time to do that.
Let's take some more calls.
Isn't asking for social... We've had the conversation that, okay, and we had Duncan Lemp on, and he said that, well, if you're just sitting in your car, you're not really doing anything. And he's right. It's much more... It's probably much more effective if people are actually up walking or they're in a group, but with social distancing right now, you can't do that. So that kind of just by itself, like in theory, it eliminates the value or eliminates the effectiveness of protest because you do have to practice social distancing.
How did that work in Michigan with everyone standing up, not practicing social
distancing? People are gathered
in
groups of hundreds or more in Michigan. That's different.
How did that work? Has the governor changed her mind?
The governor did actually come back on her extreme measures. In Michigan, you couldn't even go to your friend's house for a little bit.
And that has nothing to do with the protest.
You could purchase liquor, but you couldn't purchase seeds to garden your garden your garden.
Let's get back to the calls. I got you.
Plant seeds in your garden.
702-257-5396 is the number to call. Talking about the protests throughout the country. We've been mentioning that. Talking about what took place here in Las Vegas. What do you think of President Trump saying he's been treated worse than Abraham Lincoln, a man who was assassinated? What do you think of President Trump going after George W. Bush? All George W. Bush did was put out a video today saying, let's come together. That's all he did. But Trump is going after him because he's angry that Bush wasn't out there talking to high heaven when the president was taken out of office, or I shouldn't say that, impeached. 702-257-5396. Let's go to Ron. Ron, you're next up on the Vegas Take.
Hey, what's up, Ron?
How you doing?
Good.
Doing okay.
I just want to say, I think you'd want to hang out with me, even though I'm a Trump supporter and conservative, because actually I think you're a pretty cool guy. That'd be something that we'd probably be best friends. That's just the way it is, because I do respect you.
I appreciate that, Ron, but you're not hitting on me, are you? I'm just kidding. No. I'm just kidding, Ron. Go ahead, my man. You know I like you. Go ahead, Ron.
I know you are, brother. In my opinion, I think that the liberals have a tendency to say good things about every past Republican president. It happens every time.
Well, I'm not. I think I don't. Listen. Hold on a second. I am not a George W. Bush supporter. I think George W. Bush looks better when we have Trump in office. George W. Bush was...
You're not a liberal, though, Brian. He's not talking about...
No, I know, but I want to be clear about George W. Bush. He was a trust fund baby, an alcoholic, didn't accomplish anything in his life. He went AWOL. He spent his daddy's money. He not a very intelligent guy, to say the least. Okay, so I don't have a lot of nice things to say about Georgia. But, oh, wait.
Brian, he's not talking about you, Brian. He's talking about liberals. He said liberals.
He also got us
Yeah.
into a war under false pretenses, most likely.
On the flag issue, I wanted to mention, again, unfortunately, again, I'll say it again, and I really do think that you will agree with me. We got to teach our kids what a Confederate flag is and what an American flag is. Yeah. Because both of them are actually American, but we got to teach them that, hey, this is a bad flag.
Ron, you're right. Ron, and by the way, Ron, it's always good to hear from you, Ron. I want to add this to your sentiment and what you just said. Those idiots and those racists that are bringing Confederate flags probably have parents that are members of the Klan. That would not surprise me one bit. I agree with you. I think that people should learn from the get-go what that Confederate flag is. It's just a flag of hate. That's all it is. Really, I'm being serious. Those that in Michigan that brought Confederate flags and Nazi signs probably have family members that are grand wizards. 702-257-5396, the number to call. Let's go to Nate. Nate, you are next up on the Vegas Take. What's going on?
Hey, what's up, Nate?
Hey, JD, I got to get in here and help you out, man. Just look, nobody's been treated worse than Trump, man. They started when he came down the escalator, when he said we can't have these Mexicans coming in and dealing their drugs.
That's not what he said. Excuse me. That's not what he said. I have the quote. I talk about it every day. These people, excuse me, I have the quote and you don't. These people, they're, excuse me. Well, then read it the right way then. He said these rapists, they're rapists, they're bad people, and I suppose some of them are good people. That's the quote. That's exactly what he said. So if you're going to say it, then say it right.
That's off, and he tries to...
Doesn't even listen to me. Sir, don't tell me. Abraham Lincoln was shot dead. So don't you come on this show.
The press did that. The press didn't kill him.
Oh, so now you're saying okay. All right, so let me ask you a question. In the last 2 months during this coronavirus pandemic, quote one question that any member of the media asked that you thought was way over the line. Go.
Almost every single one of
Give
them.
me one.
When they said about the IG general that was overlooking the Ukraine thing, when the guy came out and said he wasn't appointed.
I asked you to say the last
every single one, Brian.
Okay,
you gave me one question that was good.
Sure, absolutely. No. Unlike you, I'm gonna answer the question. When Jim Acosta asked about testing, when the African American journalist from CBS asked about testing, when anybody in any of those press conferences asked the president why he was holding campaign rallies in January and February, when the WHO was telling the president and members of his own administration were telling the president how serious this... No, you asked the question, sir. Now I am answering it unlike you. I don't use generalizations like you and say, all of them. Oh, then be specific.
Confuse everybody.
What have I said that's confusing you? You sound like a very confused man, so we agree. What have I said that has confused you? Oh, you sound very confused. What have I said that's confused you, sir? Be specific. Really? Okay. All right. So what have I said that is not factually accurate that you think is confusing people? Go.
Oh my God, Brian! Almost everything you said.
You notice how this guy answers questions? Almost everything. But he can't name one thing because you're a dope. You can't name one thing because you're a dope.
No,
next
because
caller.
You flip the script. You attack him.
And then when I give him an opportunity,
you
can't
don't
answer.
give him an opportunity. You give him 1 second to think about something.
No, I didn't.
And
Not true.
No one can think that fast because they're not pros. I can, but they can't.
Okay.
So you got to give them a little more than that.
Okay, so let's ask you then. I'll ask you then, since you think faster than the caller. What have I said during the show that's not factually accurate? And what have I said during the show that confuses people?
I have no idea.
Okay, thank you.
Fine. I do find it mildly hilarious, though, that he brings up the comparison between the press pools here in 2020 with President Trump and the press pools of the 1800s with Abraham Lincoln, as if it's something that is even close to being comparable. It's hilarious.
Lincoln was murdered.
No, but when he's bringing up his point was that from a press standpoint,
Trump has been attacked.
That Trump
he has been attacked more than any president. I mean, that I can certainly recall.
Well,
but Lincoln was murdered in office. I mean, until now, once let's say that Trump is assassinated in office,
all right,
then I would say that he has been treated worse than Lincoln and murdered in office.
I want to get back to the calls.
Until then, he can't make
I want to get
statement.
back to the calls, but let me just go back to the debate I always have with people that call in. Brian, you lie. Really, sir? Name me one thing that I've lied about. Their response?
They never
Excuse
say.
me.
Yeah, nothing.
You lie about everything. Can you please name one lie? Because he's a dope. That's why. They don't know how to have a debate. Because they don't know how to form an opinion based on facts. That's why. 702-257-5396. Let's go to Mark. Mark, you're next on the Vegas Take. What's going on?
What's up, Mark?
Hey, Brian, next time you go out to one of those protests, set up a booth with a tattoo. That way they can get DNR tattooed on their bodies and sell shirts that say, I am a COVID-19 spreader. And let them wear those and let them think about what it means. Okay?
I don't think I will do that, but that's an interesting. I mean, you can do it. I think that.
That's what they're doing. The virus.
Well, you're right.
Makes no distinction.
You're right.
Regarding crowds that get together.
I agree.
No matter what the holy hosannas.
I agree.
These folks think.
Listen, make no mistake about it. I understand what you're saying, and I agree.
By that, Mark. By that logic, Mark, everyone who goes to the grocery store should do the exact same
Going
thing.
to a grocery store.
Do you not go to the grocery store, Mark? Mark, what do you do? Do you just sit in your room? Do you sit in your room all day long?
It's a bad comparison.
No, it's not. No, Chris, you said it yourself.
When you go to a grocery store, are you not supposed to be practicing social distancing?
Guys, let the caller make his
Chris,
point.
when you touch
JD,
this thing can sit on surfaces of items, right? Right? Absolutely. Okay, so when you touch something in the grocery store and you don't buy it, can someone else touch it and get the virus?
If you have the virus.
Okay, exactly. If you have the virus.
People have to do. They don't have to go to a protest.
That's the point I was going to make.
They don't have
sir.
to go to the grocery store either.
Hold on. That is a ridiculous comparison.
No, of course not. No, I'm saying you don't have to go to the grocery store to get food. You can get food from somebody else. You can have someone go to the grocery store for you and get food.
Like a guy on the street?
Yeah.
What?
Oh, man, you're rich.
Get up, my son!
No, to the caller, though, when you say DNR, you meant you do not resuscitate, right? That's what you're talking about as far as the tattoos? Oh, the caller's gone?
Did we lose him? Oh, okay.
Because he said DNR tattoos for everybody.
JD, why are you so angry?
In the tattoo spot. He was fired up.
JD,
there are certain hot points that'll get JD rocking, and that was one of them.
JD, why are you so angry? You never yell at callers. You never
Yeah, I decided to.
Why? He wants that guy banned forever. Why? You want that guy banned?
Yeah, he's banned. Mark, you're banned. Good job.
No, he's not.
He just said that you were rich.
He is absolutely banned.
Why?
100%.
He just called you rich.
You can ban callers. I'm banning a caller.
He just said that you're
because he's
rich.
attacked me on social media probably 50 times, and he continues to attack me here.
I don't know who that is. I'll be honest with you.
That's fine. You don't have to.
I don't know who
You don't
that
have to,
is.
but he's banned.
Okay, well, you made the point of
point
people
what?
can get other people to go to the supermarket for
Yes,
them.
they can, of course.
And I think Mark.
What I'm saying is, Brian,
hold on a second.
obviously social distancing is not doing anything because we're all going to the grocery store every single day. This can sit on the bottom of your shoes.
Social distancing is not doing anything now?
I don't think it's very effective at all. No, I really don't. I really don't. Our caseload's going down collectively.
JD, that would
I mean, they're really not.
absolutely
Caseloads are staying
disagree with
consistent. We've been in lockdown for 60 days.
Well, there's a number of people that are public health experts
Yeah,
that would
okay.
absolutely.
And if you look at
positively
the actual antibody tests that have been done across the country by different doctors, you can see that. The mortality rate is more like 0.15 to 0.4.
If I could just
it's
finish.
not 5%. It's not 7%. It's not 8%. It's nothing like that.
I was interrupted. If I could just finish what I was saying. The point he was trying to make, and by the way, I agree with him.
Okay.
There is a fine line between a father or a mother going into a supermarket to buy food and necessities for their family than some dope with a Trump sign who thinks he's a tough guy going to a protest with 100 or 1,000 people. That's hold on. Let me finish.
No, absolutely not. No, you're saying that if you have a Trump sign, you think you're a tough guy. Okay. So anyone with a Trump sign believes they're a tough guy. Intrinsically?
I believe
because they support Trump. That means that they think they're a tough guy.
Are you asking me a
question?
question?
Do I think I'm a tough guy?
Okay.
Because I support Trump.
Usually, when somebody asks me a question, they give me an opportunity to answer it. You ask me a question, now I'm going to answer it. I believe that some of those people, some, not all, that have their Trump signs and their Make America Great Again hats, even like some of those people like Duncan who carry their weapons with them, think they are really tough and really strong and they're protecting America. I absolutely do. I think some of those people are like that. And I am not going to compare going to a supermarket and picking up necessities, which people need to do, to going to a protest, which you don't need to do. That's the point that Mark was trying to make. And by the way, the rich comment.
Do you know what DNR means?
Hold on a second.
Do you know what DNR means?
Hold on, let me just finish
It means
my
do
point.
not resuscitate. That means that if they get the virus and they're in the hospital, that this guy thinks that they should waive their right to get treatment from a hospital.
I believe.
You know what that means, Brian?
Yeah,
that means he's saying that they should die.
Let me be clear.
That if you go to a Trump rally, or if you go to a reopen Nevada rally, that you have waived your right to say that I need to be resuscitated if I do get
Let
sick,
me be clear.
and that you are openly and actively and intentionally spreading the virus, and that they should die. And you agree with that?
Can I answer your question?
Because that's what you just said.
Okay, well, let me know when I can answer it, and you don't interrupt me after 5 seconds of my answer. Give me at least 20 seconds. I don't think that's asking too much. If you are dumb enough to go to a rally with a bunch of people, I'm talking about a lot of people, if you are dumb enough to not practice social distancing, to shake hands and do what they did in Michigan, and not practice social distancing, and not abide by the laws, not knowing whether you have the virus or not knowing where all these other people have the virus or not, if you are that dumb, I have no concern for your life at all. You know who I'm concerned about? Other people, their families, their friends that weren't at the rally, giving the virus to others. I would have no problem with not giving them any medical assistance if they are not practicing social distancing. I'm worried about the other people out there. That's who I'm worried about, because I think those people that are not practicing social distancing, that are going to these rallies, are dopes.
And again, Brian, you have no idea what the mortality rate of the virus is. You don't know when it got here. You know what the media is. You know what you are being told. You know that specific models think that 2.2 million people are going to die from this virus. That is nowhere near the case.
Let's take one more phone call. Let's go to Kevin. Kevin, you're next up on the Vegas Take. What's going on?
What's up, Kevin?
Hey, I just have a remark. Back when y'all were talking about, should felons be able to buy ammunition and guns and all that? This is how I look at it. Listen, there are people out there, they keep saying that they can't get an ID. Well, what about people who aren't felons and can't get an ID? How do they buy a gun to protect
Who can't get an ID? There's something called the DMV. Well, no, don't say thank you. There's something called the DMV. Sir, name me anybody that says they can't find an ID. What are you talking about? Exactly. And then the guy hangs up the phone. What a dope. 702-257-5396 is the number to call. We're going to take a break, but when we come back, we're going to talk to a man who claims he had the coronavirus back in December. He's a doctor. His name is H.L. Greenberg. He's going to be joining us on the show, and it should be an interesting conversation because I do believe that the virus got here in December. In fact, I've spoken to a college basketball coach yesterday who thinks some of his players probably had the virus back in December. I believe it's out there. I believe it has been out there for longer than we think. I also believe people want to say that the death toll has overblown. I think the death toll could be underblown. I think there are people that died months ago and were not tested for coronavirus. So I think it goes both ways there. So I want to talk to this guy coming up next, and we'll see what he has to say. The kind of the local story of the trials and tribulations, guys, that he had to go through. I haven't contracted the coronavirus. As far as I know, nobody in this room has, but it affects everybody differently. And we want to get his story coming up next. Again, his name is H.L. Greenberg. Claims he got the coronavirus back in December. He did test positive. That's important to note. This isn't one of these people, like Amy Vanderpool, who used to do our show, who claims she had the virus, but yet she never was tested. This guy actually was tested for the virus, so there's certainly some credibility there. So we'll take a quick break. We'll be back right after this, joined by H.L. Greenberg, the Vegas Take on 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDON.
Maybe you can relate to this. A lot of people think they're stuck with their health plan. It costs too much, or for whatever reason, they just don't like it. The great news, you are not stuck with it. There is a choice. It's called MediShare, and you could save so much. The typical savings for a family is $500 a month. Major difference maker. This is the affordable alternative to health insurance. And just to give you a little more info about MediShare, it's a Christian healthcare sharing ministry. It's worked beautifully for 26 years, has more than 400,000 members, and they've shared over $3 billion of each other's medical bills. So yes, they can help share your needs too. So you're not stuck. There's an excellent alternative, whether you're single or married, you got a family. MediShare is super flexible. You can choose an option that works for you and start saving lots of money. You can join anytime. They're great to talk to. No pressure. Call 844-91-BIBLE. That's 844-91-BIBLE. 844-91-BIBLE.
Your home for Sean Hannity. KDWN Las Vegas. KKLZ HD2 Las Vegas. A Beasley Media Group station.
Is projecting the consequence of doing so will cause a sharp new wave of virus cases and deaths.
The projections based on modeling by the Centers for Disease Control and charted by FEMA forecast about 200,000 new cases each day by the end of the month. That's an 8-fold increase from the 25,000 cases now. The report in the New York Times shows as many as 3,000 people could die each day from COVID-19. That is nearly double the level now. The projection data collected by the Times confirm the primary fear of public health experts that a reopening of the economy too soon will put the nation right back to where it was back in mid-March. Jeff McKay, Washington.
Costco, the largest retailer now to impose limits on meat purchases. Supplies of meat have been down as several plants have closed because of worker illnesses over COVID-19. I'm Mike Moss. Detroit Mayor Mike Duggan says his city is an example of how social distancing can work.
3 weeks ago, we were slammed. We were losing 40 or 50 residents a day from our deaths. Our hospitals were overwhelmed, gurneys in the hallway. But the social distancing here, Detroiters have complied, and it has dropped dramatically. There's 700 or 800 empty hospital beds in Detroit today. We're down 70 or 80% in the deaths, but we are bringing people back under the strictest medical protocols.
New York Governor Andrew Cuomo says staying shut down is not sustainable, and he believes his state will reopen region by region. The World Health Organization is supporting a thorough investigation into the cause of the coronavirus outbreak, but it says it wants the probe to be scientific and not political in nature. On Wall Street, stocks are down, the Dow off nearly 200 points, almost 1%. I'm Mike Moss.
It's time to check the roads.
From the Lerner and Rowe Traffic Studio.
This report sponsored by ExpressPros.com. Police with a crash reported Arville at Flamingo. Avoid delays. Take an alternate like Decatur or Valley View instead. No slowing on the I-15 Resort Corridor, north and southbound. Looks good, light to moderate volume between the Spaghetti Bowl and Tropicana. And no delays on the 95 east side west side inbound to I-15. Road work continues Craig Road eastbound with right lane restrictions between Lamb and Copper Sage. Need to manage a changing workforce? It's time to get to know Express Employment Professionals. Find a location near you at ExpressPros.com. John Michaels from the KDON Traffic Center.
Get the rest you deserve with Helix Sleep. Helix makes personalized mattresses to fit your unique body type and sleep preferences and give you the best sleep of your life. Go to helixsleep.com and get up to $200 off mattress orders.
Sometimes you hear an idea or learn about a company and say, finally, it's about time. That's what I said when I met the team at Homey. With Homey, you get a local real estate expert and everything you expect with a traditional agent. Everything except those high fees and commissions. Homey sellers save $10,000 on average. Finally, you can buy and sell confidently and save thousands in good times and bad. Check out homey.com or just text JD to 88588 to receive $250 off your listing fee. Homey's got your back.
I'm attorney Paul Powell. If you get hurt in a crash, did you know your lawyer can take more money than you? That's right. You get hurt and the lawyer gets rich. Not very fair, is it? When you hire me, those worries go bye, bye, bye. I promise never to take more money than you, and I put it in writing.
If you're tired of greedy lawyers, call 728-5500 or go to paulpowell.com.
I really can help.
Paul Powell.
More lawyer, less fee.
Some restrictions apply.
1015 FM, 720 AM, KDON, the talk of Las Vegas. The opinions of the hosts on KDWN are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of this station, its management, or Beasley Media Group.
Hello, everyone. This is President Trump, the greatest president in the history of presidents. And the only show I listen to is the top-rated show, Sharp and Shapiro. They are the best.
I got my first band. I'm down my first one.
Well, Matt, right now, the day's biggest news story.
And so is John
from a Vegas perspective. This is the Vegas Take with Sharp and Shapiro.
All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro. So glad you could join us. You know, during this coronavirus pandemic, it seems like, there's certainly not a lot of good news to report. There's a lot of bad news, and sadly, a man that, somebody certainly will remember after the October 1 shootings, has lost his life. Jason Stein is our producer, and he has the story for us, wanted to share with us on the air. Jason, go ahead.
That's the story. His name is Greg Zanis, I believe is how you pronounce it.
He put up those 58 crosses after October 1 as a memorial to the people who lost their lives.
Right.
Well, now we just found out within the last couple minutes, and we actually found out last week he was in hospice care, that he was dying, he had terminal illness, and now sadly we just found out that he has passed away.
Very sad. Thoughts and prayers to him and his family. And I remember when I went on the near Mandalay Bay, and I was, I believe it was near the Vegas sign. They put all those crosses near where the Vegas sign was, and it was kind of my way of thoughts and prayers and remembering those who lost their lives. And I thought he did a really good job in doing that. And I got very emotional. I went there a couple times where all those crosses were, and it was the faces of all the 50. At the time, it was 58. Now it's 59, sadly, of those who lost their lives. But it was a great way for people in Las Vegas, almost going to a gravesite, to say goodbye to those, even if you didn't know any of them, just to pay your respects. And thoughts and prayers to this man and his family, because what he did was a great thing for Las Vegas, and I give him a lot of credit for that. A lot of people going through a lot of tough times, that's for sure, during this coronavirus outbreak. The guy we have with us on the line right now, his name is H.L. Greenberg, says he had the coronavirus back in December. Luckily, he's doing much better now, and we appreciate him taking the time to come on. Mr. Greenberg, thank you for being here. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing well. So my name is H.L. Greenberg. I'm a board-certified dermatologist. I actually did an internal medicine residency before dermatology. In my senior year of that residency at Georgetown Hospital, I did a rotation in infectious disease for a month with Dr. Anthony Fauci. So I'm very familiar with infectious disease and viruses. And when I didn't feel well in December, I wasn't sure what it was. I didn't feel well again in January. And it was either in December or January that I think I got the coronavirus.
What were your symptoms? And just tell us a little bit of what you had to go through there.
Sure. So in December, it was just general malaise around Christmas time, and I was in bed and achy. In January, and I coughed a little bit in December. In January, I went to a friend's. She asked me to take her daughter to a daddy-daughter dance. I went there on January 17th. That was in Henderson, and that was a Friday. And on Sunday, I wasn't feeling well. On Monday, which was Martin Luther King Day, I certainly wasn't feeling well. And on Tuesday, I spent all day in bed. And for the next week or two, I was coughing. I had fevers during the weekend and aches and pains.
Did you, obviously in December, we were, and even in January, nobody knew exactly how, the whole country was going to be shut down. But did you ever, any inkling, when was the first inkling that entered your mind with your, with your history and what you know, that you said to yourself, holy cow, I might have the coronavirus? When did that first hit you?
Yeah, like everybody else, maybe not everybody else, I have a little brother, and he and I have a lot of debate, and we argue. And
sounds like our radio show.
What's that?
Says it sounds like our radio show every day. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so, my brother likes to egg me on and give me a hard time, and I said, I had symptoms in January where I was coughing, I wasn't feeling well, and because Vegas is an international city, I think we were exposed before whatever the common narrative and timeline is. And he says, that's impossible. The timeline is what the timeline is. I said, no, it's not impossible because this is a moving target. Nobody knows what's going on. So I ended up having, when the blood test came out in April, I was one of the first people to get it done. I had my blood collected on April 23rd. And on April 24th, I found out that I was SARS-CoV antibody IgG positive, meaning that I have been exposed. I didn't die. I made antibodies, and I am now immune to the virus.
Wow, that's incredible. And by the way, we're glad that you're doing much better than you and your family are well. You mentioned to me that you spent time, obviously, with Dr. Fauci. There's a lot. I have to ask you about that because, there are some people that are attacking Dr. Fauci, many on the right, and I don't want to make this political, but they are attacking his credibility. I've defended him. While he's not perfect, and even he says he's not perfect, and he makes mistakes, I think he's a smart man and a good man. What can you tell us? You've spent time around Dr. Fauci. What can you tell us about him?
So I spent a month with him when I was in my senior year of Georgetown Hospital getting my internal medicine degree, and he was amazing. Everybody who was on that rotation wanted to present in a way not to embarrass themselves and to impress Dr. Fauci. And in fact, my father, when he was at Walter Reed Army Hospital, did his senior year rotation with Dr. Fauci, who was his fellow in infectious disease at the time. So I told Dr. Fauci, Dr. Fauci, my father was your senior resident at a point in time when he rotated here. And he said, son, you're making me feel really old. He's funny, he's bright, and I do think he has the best interest of medicine at heart.
When you think about that response team, right? Obviously, Dr. Fauci, Dr. Birx, Dr. Hahn, and the rest of them. What do you think about that whole dynamic, right? Where you want to focus on science, you want to focus on facts, right? But you're also, you have that balancing act where you're dealing with the Trump administration, right? You're dealing with politics. That's got to be something, right? That Dr. Fauci and the rest of them has to be tough to deal with, right?
I think it's tough, in this charged environment to deal with anything. And my brother and I share different political views, and none of these people are perfect, and they're all trying to do the best they can. But I can tell you that, given my experience when I was with him, and it was during the time of HIV/AIDS, so we had a ton of HIV patients. It was all science-driven, fact-driven.
Mm-hmm.
But in this case, facts are changing. So the fact that I am, COVID-19 positive with my antibodies mean that I was exposed, I don't have the disease, according to a timeline that shouldn't be, means that the timeline has changed. Things have changed.
So where exactly did you get your antibody test done through? And so let's say someone wanted to do the exact same thing as you. How would they go about doing that? Was it Quest Diagnostics, or what was the company?
Yeah, so Quest is the one who offers the test. In my office, Las Vegas Dermatology, I had my blood drawn by my staff, and we sent it. We're doing it for our patients. We have them fill out a questionnaire, and we do an office visit, discuss the implications of the test, and we just completed a one-pager on the test. I found out that we could offer the test basically April 21st. And I told my staff I was going to send out a newsletter, after I became positive, but I didn't want to send that out without having a process and procedure in place to draw the blood and to get it out. This test is not a good test if you think you are actively infected or if you've been infected within the past 3 weeks, because you wouldn't have had time to make the antibodies.
So as a dermatologist, I'm sure you have a lot of connections to hospitals and other doctors throughout Las Vegas. What have you heard about the virus actually being in hospitals? I mean, were the hospitals at any point overrun with people who actually have the virus, or that were overly symptomatic, or that were on ventilators? I mean, do you think that the virus really doesn't exist a lot in these hospitals? And what are your thoughts on the overall reaction, by the governor keeping Las Vegas in lockdown during this time? Do you think that it's warranted based on what you know?
Sure. So I'm Las Vegas Dermatologist at my practice is at Summerlin Hospital. So I have lunch at the hospital maybe every other day. But I've met with the CEO of the hospital, and when I thought that it was possible that I could still have the virus and be exposed, I asked him if I could have one of the ventilators, set aside for me, and he could get free dermatologic care for life. I just wanted one with my name on it, and they have not been using the ventilator. So they have like 99 ventilators, and they may have been using 20 or so. But those aren't necessarily COVID patients. These, a ventilator is used for multiple reasons, and COVID is just one of them.
I want to go back to Dr. Fauci, because I find that fascinating. There's not a lot of people on the planet that have gotten a chance to learn from the doctor, to spend time around him. And even if you were only around him a month, what do you think to yourself when you see, for example, Fox News, for example? There are a lot of shows on Fox News. They go after the doctor. There are a lot of right-wing talk show hosts that criticize the doctor. In fact, they're criticizing him. I know a lot of he gave $3.7 million to the Wuhan lab. I know that's one theory where, and some people want to correlate the fact that maybe Fauci was a part of this. And other people want to say, well, Fauci knew the Clintons. He knew George Soros, So, yeah, I know. I laugh at it too, doctor, to be honest with you. I mean, you knew this guy. I mean, not extremely well, but you spent time around this guy. Did he ever bring up politics in the discussion? Did he ever bring up how he used to hang out with the Clintons? What are your observations, and what goes through your mind when you see somebody on the right, like a Laura Ingraham, constantly attack Dr. Fauci?
I can tell you that when I spent time with him, I loved that man, and I thought he was just a model of the type of physician that I wanted to be. So I really enjoyed my time there with him, and I was in touch with the dean of Georgetown's medical school on Twitter, asking where I could donate my plasma if he had any connections, and it turns out that we can donate plasma here in Nevada through UHC, University Health Services, or UMC.
Right.
There's a program in place. But no, I've always been impressed with Dr. Fauci. And when people attack him, I don't, I think a lot of us have things that we're not proud of that we've done in the past, and I don't know what he's done or hasn't done, but when I worked with him, I thought he had a ton of integrity, and everybody
Yeah.
around him was just impressed, and he was held in the highest of regard.
What would you do, doctor? And I know this isn't your forte, but let's just say, hypothetically speaking, you're in that room where he's holding a press conference. You're Dr. Fauci or Dr. Birx, and the president looks at you and starts talking about the possibility of injecting disinfectants into your body. If you were put in that position, how would you react to that? What did you make of that whole spectacle?
I probably would have laughed too, because it's so ridiculous. It's not, the president had said, and at least because I've been watching that too, and I see, all the political posts going around saying that now he's telling people to inject disinfectants and it's a bad idea. He said he was joking. Other people say he wasn't joking. I think when you're in a position such as that of the president, even when you're joking, it may not come across right. And I certainly told jokes in the room with patients, trying to lighten the mood and get them to feel more comfortable, that have landed wrong. So I can't speak for him, but I think all of us can agree that you don't inject a disinfectant into a person.
Doctor, going back to what you discussed with JD regarding, medical capabilities and medical facilities capabilities here in Las Vegas and across Nevada, I just kind of wanted to bounce this off you, because we are lay people here as radio hosts. You are an actual physician. In your opinion, and as far as your take, do you think that there's people out there, there's people like JD who think we should be open now and we should have opened, a couple weeks ago or maybe weeks ago? But there's also a lot of people out there that believe that we should have never shut down in the first place. Is there evidence out there? Are there facts out there that would support their argument to do those two actions?
Well, there's a couple points of view here. So up until maybe this week or even this weekend, we didn't even know if you were exposed that you have antibodies. Now, I knew, or antibodies that are protective and give you immunity.
Right.
Based on my training, I knew that if I have the disease, I don't die from it, I clear the disease, and I live, then I have antibodies.
Right.
Science doesn't change just because your political narrative is a certain political narrative.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the WHO is up to. I don't know what people with different agendas wanting to keep somebody like me who's had the disease, who I feel like I should have an immunity passport that I could wear on my chest and walk around without a mask. Now, I'm not going to do that because people don't understand it. I'm not going to disrespect others, and people are scared. I even had a patient say that he thinks that I gave him the virus 2 days ago, even though I wear the mask and I don't have the ability to give it since I'm already immune.
Right. Exactly.
So my personal opinion,
Yep.
I think that the whole city should open up, and that if you don't want to go out, you don't go out.
Yeah,
That's
no,
my
I agree.
opinion.
Mhm.
And it was flatten the curve, not eliminate the disease. We still have HIV, being intimate. There are inherent risks with living a life. And in order for this city to survive, and I have a friend who just quit over with MGM because had mentioned to me, how are we going to, have a concert and only sell a quarter of the seats? How are we going to have a hockey game and only sell a quarter of the seats with social distancing? These things are impossible.
No, you're right.
With living, and either you risk it and you go live a life, or you stay in your home for the rest of your life. But it's not cure the disease; it's flatten the curve. I think we have the ability, and you don't get herd immunity unless you get the disease. Certain people have
Exactly.
the disease.
What do you think the actual mortality rate is based on what you know about antibodies? We've seen, it's been interesting. We've seen probably 10 or 12 different studies done across not just the United States, but also different countries that have come up with anywhere from a 0.15 to a 0.40. But then last week you had specific media outlets that were saying, and actually I think Chuck Schumer actually said too, that these antibody tests aren't really reliable. Based on the fact that you're saying that they are reliable, you actually had one. It showed that you had the virus and you're immune to it. What do you think the actual mortality rate is of this virus?
Well, I really don't know. Based on what I've read and what I've seen, and there's so much information out there, I really think that if you're obese, if you're older, if you have a comorbid condition, asthma, lung disease, if you have an autoimmune disorder, you may be at increased risk for getting the virus and not mounting as good of an immune response.
No question. Well, doctor, let me. I just wanted to say this. We're very happy that you and your family are doing well. We're happy that you've recovered from the coronavirus. Obviously, that's the most important thing. I'm sure it was a very dangerous time, or scary, I should say, time for you. We're glad you're back working again, and I appreciate the fact that you shared your story. And these are scary times that we're living in, but I appreciate your expertise, and I find it fascinating. There's not many people in the world that have gotten a chance to learn from Dr. Fauci. So I appreciate that about you as well. That's very unique, and I appreciate your candor with that. And thank you so much for taking some time to join us, Doctor. We really do appreciate it.
Yeah, well, thank you, and I really appreciate you guys, discussing this. And like I said, my brother lives actually in London, England, and there was a lot of debate there about how they're going to go about doing the coronavirus. And at first they wanted everybody to get it, and then they didn't want anybody to get it. And the prime minister there got it. We're all learning as we go.
Sure. No, I think that's the important thing. There's a lot of stuff we still don't know, and my side has always been it's better to be on the side of caution when there are so many unanswered questions. Dr. Greenberg, really do appreciate your time again, and please be safe and best to you and your family.
All right, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Doc.
Interesting. I mean, he said that Dr. Fauci's brilliant. He never heard him talk about politics. Nothing but positive things to say about Dr. Fauci. And you know what? The majority of people have had that same sentiment when it comes to Dr. Fauci. All right, here's what we're going to do. Backed by popular demand, ladies and gentlemen, it's going to be our China report coming up next. You're listening to The Vegas Take right here on the all-new 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDAWN.
Poor Sam was a mess. Always itching, licking. His paws were soaking wet. He had bald spots on his back. DINOVITE.com. 2 weeks after he started Dynamite, I started seeing great improvements, and today 99% of his issues are non-existent. Dynamite is nutrition. Dynamite is the best thing you can do for your dog.
You won't believe how happy your dog will be.
I get my Dynamite from DINOVITE.com.
These are unprecedented times, which are causing a lot of stress and financial worry for millions of Americans. But here's some good news. If you owe back taxes to the IRS, Optima Tax Relief can reduce the stress in your life by helping you resolve your tax debt right from the safety of your own home. Make no mistake, you don't want to owe the IRS right now. They can take your paycheck and everything you work so hard for. But with Optima on your side, you may qualify for help that saves you thousands. Their tax professionals specialize in the Fresh Start Initiative, one of the biggest breaks the IRS has ever offered. Optima is A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau and has resolved over $1 billion of tax debt for taxpayers across the nation. So now's the time. For tax help you need, for tax help you trust, call Optima now for a free consultation.
Call 800-709-6011. That's 800-709-6011. 800-709-6011.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Can a tree change a life? At Trees for the Future, we believe trees make all the difference in the fight against poverty, hunger, and climate change. Through a proven permaculture method called the Forest Garden Approach, Trees for the Future has positively impacted over 26,000 farmers and their children. Are you ready to leave a lasting impact on the world? Find out how to plant seeds of hope this season at trees.org/radio. That's trees.org/radio.
Mark Levin, weekdays 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Now back to the Vegas Take on 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDAWN.
All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro. On a Monday, CUN, why is your house so hot? I feel like it's like 80 degrees in here.
Well,
I'm
when
perspiring.
we open the door up and there's a 15-degree difference, guys, there might be a little bit of a factor there. Okay,
all right, fair enough.
Yeah.
You can't afford
Why don't we just do the show outside with our shirts off? I'm
We can
down.
do that,
Let's
by the
make
way.
it happen.
Yeah,
I'm tired of
that's-
this. I'm tired of this nonsense.
That's yeah, I don't want to see that.
I'm confident in my body.
Anyway, this is a very popular segment of the show, and we're bringing it back. It is time, ladies and gentlemen, for the Vegas Take's very own version of the China Report.
Let's say China. 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 China.
Thank you, Rush. Yeah, it is time for the China Report. So the DHS is report. Don't we have a little music that we could play? What happened to our music?
No, we just have music.
There you go. Thank you.
Okay.
There you go. Thank you.
All right.
Daniel's son.
Just have it on the bottom the entire time.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, don't even take it off.
The DHS report, they're purporting that China hid the coronavirus severity in order to hoard medical supplies. So this is not a surprise, but a serious situation. JD, what can you tell us about
Well,
this?
there's also much more to it than that. Word is that in Beijing, out of Beijing, which is obviously where all the decisions are made, they censored Google they censored search information, so like information that was coming out about the virus. They censored that so that people in other countries couldn't see what was going on. Also, there's a lot of conversation, and Pompeo and Trump and a lot of the Republican administration, the Trump administration, is pretty much convinced at this point that the virus did originate in Wuhan and that it was most likely accidentally released. It wasn't, a biological weapon. But there's also the conversation that, well, maybe China got opportunistic and they decided that, wow, we have this extremely dangerous virus. Maybe we can we can kind of put the world at our mercy.
By the way, are they still eating bats out there?
They are, and actually, I believe they are still eating bats.
That's ridiculous.
That wet market is still open. And
That's
disgusting.
disgusting.
This wet market where they said the virus started, it's coincidentally 1 mile away from the only level 4 biosafety lab in China, in the entire country, where there's 1.3 billion people, Brian. So what are the chances that a virus like this would just show up a mile away from the actual lab?
Trump said he doesn't think it's intentional.
No, I'm not saying it's intentional. I'm saying it was accidental, but obviously the cover-up was intentional.
Well, yes.
The information about what happened with the deaths was intentional. The fact that it was human-to-human transmissible as early as December was intentional. They had so much information early in the process that they did not share with the United States for months. And it affected not only the United States, but also the entire world's response. Now, here's a question for you, Brian, and this is outside of the China report, but it's something I got to add in. Italy.
We're not turning off the music.
Italy, France, and Spain all had less than 2,000 cases yesterday. New cases and less than 200 deaths. Why in the United States are we not going below that 25,000 caseload mark?
Well, I think
why is this virus
He's asking you a leading
stopping?
question.
Yes,
Brian.
Yeah.
He's asking you a leading
First
question.
of all, I think that the virus was in some other parts of the world before it got here. I think that we're a little behind with some of other, and I think that's a big reason. I think eventually we will get there sooner than later.
But based on
based
on what H.L. Greenberg said, he had the virus back in December or January.
And
so
I believe,
by that logic, then the virus, unless there's a different strain of the virus that we're now getting on the East Coast.
And I personally believe that there are other parts of the world that got the virus before we got the virus here. And it makes complete sense, at least to me, forming this opinion, that eventually we will be there. But I believe some of these other countries got it a few months before we got it.
And I think that we are, since a lot of hospitals are actually getting paid to list COVID as a cause of death.
I'm not going to.
No, they are. Brian, the CARES Act is literally giving Medicare 20% more for uninsured patients. They have $40 billion allotted just for that specific thing, for listing COVID as a cause of death and for using a ventilator. And right now, 90% of people on ventilators are dying. They are dying.
Chris,
so why are we using those? Because the hospitals are getting paid extra money to kill people with ventilators.
Chris, I know.
But to bounce back to China, JD, which we were talking about initially, and Brian, how hard is the hammer going to drop on the Chinese government once all the smoke clears, not just from us here in the United States of America, but from countries all over the world, given that this is absolutely something that they are going to have to answer for big time? I mean, that's what we're talking about.
I think you're looking at an international lawsuit from several countries. Germany is going to charge them $150 billion. The United States is looking at somewhere in the trillion range. Except the problem is we owe them $1.1 trillion in bonds. The problem with that is if we just erase that debt, it erases the value of our dollar. So I think Trump will hit them with a pretty good sized bill as far as that goes. And if 5 or 6 other major countries like a Great Britain, let's say, had Boris Johnson died, they would have had some serious hell to pay under those circumstances. But I could see China just not doing anything, and then eventually, I mean, it's possible. It is possible based on what we know about China and how involved they were in this virus and how much pestilence it's caused across the world, not just in the United States. But it's possible that there could be a war with China as the one target.
By the way,
that
as
is
a
possible
side
at
note,
this point.
Chris Wynn just told me that he knows the soundtrack to that music that was just being played because it's the same music.
Yeah, it's Romeo Must Die, 2001. Great movie.
No,
Rest in peace, Aaliyah.
No, don't
She's
lie.
awesome.
You didn't let me finish.
That was necessary.
All right, it was.
I'm happy you did that.
It's the same
She
music.
was great.
It's the same music that Chris Wynn hears when he steps into a massage parlor. So that's
true.
I just wanted to say that.
So that's how Brian was lining
Brian
up.
had to say that. He had to say that. Yeah, it was so important. It was so important that he insulted you for liking massage parlors.
Yes, exactly.
Yes,
that's great.
What's wrong with me wanting to get a little, massage action? Nothing wrong with that.
Define massage action. Actually, don't. So we're going to take a quick break. We'll take some more of your calls when we come back. 702-257-5396. Again, that number, if you want to be a part of this conversation, 257-5396. 5396. We'll try to squeeze in a few calls on the other side of the break. You are listening to the Vegas Take right here, 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDAWN.
Remain closed. A hybrid model could have committees convening to review what Kevin McCarthy says the Democrats want to pass with limited debate.
A few people are going to decide what's in it, and then you're going to bring everybody back just for an up and down vote. That's not how Congress should work. That's not how the American's voice should be delivered. So I believe we can do both in a different manner.
Chief Justice John Roberts has wrapped up the first Supreme Court arguments conducted entirely by phone. Today's session was also the first at which audio was available live to the public. A Trump administration model projects the U.S. could see as many as 3,000 coronavirus deaths a day this month. The numbers are inside an administration document obtained by the New York Times. The total number of deaths to date nationwide just passed 68,000. I'm Jan Johnson.
It's time to check the roads.
From the Leonard Road Traffic Studio.
Police with a crash reported on Arville at Flamingo. Avoid delays, take an alternate like Decatur or Valley View. No delays to report on the resort corridor, I-15 north and southbound. But if your travels take you on I-15 into California, heads up. A serious crash on 15 northbound between Baker Boulevard and Halloran Springs Road. Two big rigs collided and are blocking two right lanes. Expect heavy northbound delays. Need to manage a changing workforce? It's time to get to know Express Employment Professionals. Find a location near you at expresspros.com. I'm John Michaels from the KDAWN Traffic Center.
Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical. Whether you enjoy classical, rock, or heavy metal, we all march to the beat of our own drummer or guitarist. That's why Views also offers you more ways to vape your way. It's available in 5 bold color options, 3 smooth tastes, and 3 nicotine levels. It's your vape, your way. Views, charge beyond. Underage sale prohibited.
Attention all authors. Page Publishing is looking for authors. Have you written a book and want to get it published? Page Publishing will get your book into bookstores and for sale online at Amazon, Apple iTunes, and other outlets. They handle all aspects of the publishing process for you. Printing, cover art, publicity, copyright, and editing. Call 800-501-3689 now for your free author submission kit. That's 800-501-3689 for your free author submission kit. Again, 800-501-3689.
Travis Scribner, managing partner of Westpac Wealth Partners, interviews some of the most successful business owners for insight into what makes both them and their business run. Tune in every Saturday morning at 8 a.m. on 101.5 FM, 720 AM KDAWN, or podcasts on iTunes.
Mark Levin, weekdays 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Now back to the Vegas Take on 101.5 FM, 720 AM KDAWN.
All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take. Sharp and Shapiro broadcasting live from C. Wynn's house. By the way, somebody clogged up his toilet. Somebody's wiping too much.
And didn't cop to it.
Yeah.
It was a big mystery for a while.
I know.
But it's been taken care of.
Yeah,
Brian.
so we talked a little bit about
mystery.
We talked a little bit about China. We've talked about this new report that came out that China hid the coronavirus severity in order to hoard medical supplies. It's absolutely disgusting if it's true, and I believe it to be true. And we're taking your phone calls on that, 702-257-5396. How do we punish China for what's taking place around the world? Why don't we start off with Bob? Bob, thanks for calling into the Vegas Take. What's on your mind?
Okay, basically I'm calling on the stimulus package. I believe paying first responders in a lot of these cities, firemen, policemen, sanitation, but I don't believe the stimulus money should go to these ridiculous pensions like Illinois, where you got over 100,000 people collecting over $100,000 a year in pensions. They made a mess. Let them sit with it. The other point I like to make out is I've heard they want the money. Let them give up sanctuary cities. A lot of these states, they want the money. You got to give back a little. I'm tired of MS-13 gang members killing innocent people and being protected by these cities.
All right, Bob, I appreciate the phone call. I'm not quite sure you were on topic there, but again, thank you very much for calling in.
And I'm going to expand on that, actually. Bob, you're right. Illinois just offered just requested $44 billion from the federal government. And Illinois was in serious fiscal, financial ruin before the pandemic happened. Obviously, the pandemic hasn't helped, but I think you're going to see a lot of these states that were not doing well, most of which are Democratic, that are going to try to get opportunistic with this situation, like a lot of people have, because why not take advantage of a crisis and they're going to try to make up for their own financial problems they had before this started by having the government in a literal bailout situation. And they may even go as far as to say, hey, we're not going to open up until we get this money. And I hope that doesn't happen.
What the caller just proposed, though, JD, is exactly what Republicans would be doing as far as using politics by saying that we're not going to offer money to cities or states that have sanctuary cities. That's exactly what you just described. Democrats are trying to do is exactly what the caller was describing. Republicans would be doing, which is in a sense, it's a quid pro quo.
Well, he is saying that if they're going to ask for all this money, there should be a compromise. That's what he's saying.
702-257-5396. Let's go to Fernando. You're next up on the Vegas Take. Go ahead, Fernando.
Hey, Fernando. What's up, man?
Hey guys, I'm doing okay. How you guys doing?
Doing fine.
From my garage here in Sun City.
That's huge.
Looking down at the strip in downtown. It's a beautiful day. Has the United Nations said anything about this and what they're going to do? Are they going to have an investigation and find out who was responsible for this and hopefully seek some international crimes or something like that?
I think it's one of those deals where everybody's going to wait till the smoke clears, right? Where everybody, as far as country and across the globe, deal with the situation and then move from there. As far as the time frame, I would expect that's what most people are expecting. Both the United States as well as all the other members of the UN. I don't know exactly what kind of direct role the UN would have, but make no mistake about it. Us here with the United States, obviously the Trump administration is the current administration right now. At the appropriate time, this will be dealt with, and the Chinese government will absolutely face the wrath of this.
Yeah, Fernando, I would be shocked if they didn't get involved. But as far as I know, they have not gotten overly involved yet.
Go ahead, Fernando.
They were talking about maybe the Chinese president or something or somebody in that administration. They'd probably be looking at maybe in the future, but I think we should probably other countries just find them and try to seek money back from them, I guess, for the economy.
Right, and the question is, but the next question becomes, okay, well, if they get fined by 30 countries or 50 countries or 189 countries, and they decline to pay off that money, what is the repercussion? What's the next step of recourse? And it could be a violent step of recourse. Considering what's happened, that's possible.
Fernando, please stay safe, my friend. Good to hear from you. And
thanks, Fernando.
Call anytime.
Yeah, thanks, Fernando.
Appreciate it. All right, so we got to get our mind a little bit off this coronavirus stuff. We try to have some fun and we try to mix it up a little bit. So we were watching The Last Dance yesterday. If you don't know what that is, it's basically a documentary on the Chicago Bulls in the '90s and a lot about Michael Jordan, of course. When we come back, the correlation between Michael Jordan and Las Vegas. I'll explain what that means. They talked about it yesterday. We'll talk about it coming up next. You're listening to the Vegas Take right here on the all-new 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDAWN.
I'm attorney Paul Powell. A lot of lawyers promise a lot of things. No fee unless we win. The consults are free. Of course they offer that stuff. All lawyers do that. But will they promise not to take more money than you at the end of your case? No. When you call me, that answer's yes. I'll never take more money than you, and I put it in writing.
Call 728-5500 or go to paulpowell.com.
I really can help.
Paul Powell.
More lawyer, less fee.
Some restrictions apply.
Are you the parent of a 2 to 7-year-old? Listen closely for an exciting free radio offer. By now, you've probably heard of ABC Mouse, the Parents' Choice Award-winning online learning program that's actually changing the lives of early learners everywhere.
ABC Mouse is like a little one-on-one teacher. It has helped her so much.
Right now, we're offering a special radio promo to try it free for a month. But you have to go to abcmouse.com/radio to claim your free month. That's abcmouse.com/radio.
Mark Levin, weekdays 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Now back to the Vegas Take on 101.5 FM, 720 AM. KDAWN.
All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro on a Monday, baby. Oh, yeah. Glad you could join us. We are live. We plan to be live all week.
Yes.
We plan to be in Chris Wynn's living room for another few weeks minimum. We're not allowed back into the studio yet. We're not important enough. No, in all seriousness, stations throughout the country are not allowing a lot of employees in the building because of course, the coronavirus pandemic. So we actually I was watching last night, Chris Wynn household, watching a little bit of The Last Dance. Again, if you don't know what The Last Dance is, it's a documentary on the Chicago Bulls in the 90s. A lot goes into Michael Jordan, and they were talking about, listen, a lot of the stuff I found interesting. I thought it was very good yesterday, and we can get into the USA basketball practices and stuff, but I want to start with Michael Jordan because the part that I found very interesting, it's nothing I didn't already know, but if you recall, when Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls in the playoffs were playing, I believe it was it the New York Knicks?
Yes.
And the night before a playoff game, I guess Michael Jordan claimed, and his father claimed, that, he was going through a lot of the stresses of being a professional basketball player and, winning a playoff series. And I think they were down 1-0. And they had a game the next day against the Knicks. So Jordan decides to go with his dad to Atlantic City, which is, by the way, not a short drive. It's at least a few hours. He goes there in the afternoon. Reports are he didn't even get back until 2 a.m. Now, he said on the ESPN documentary yesterday he got back at midnight, when all reports said he was still in the casinos at that time. And his defense was not that he was a compulsive gambler or that it was selfish. His defense was that he did that to get his mind off things. Now, you could have gone with his dad and taken a drive somewhere to get your mind off. You don't have to play blackjack and gamble. And he was asked, Michael, do you think you're a compulsive gambler? And he said, no, I have a problem when it comes to competition, but not gambling. Well, that's exactly what gambling is. It's competition. Did you win? Did you lose? So, yes, I do think throughout his life, Michael Jordan has had a gambling problem. And, there have been books written about this. They also went into all the money he lost on the golf course. He would gamble everywhere he went. And I think it was part of how he's such a competitive person. Some of the most competitive people I know love to gamble. I'm one of them. But Michael took it to another level, and he let his work get in the way of gambling. He did. Even though he's the best basketball player of all time, he lost that game too. A lot of people felt like he didn't have sufficient sleep, and going to Atlantic City certainly was a selfish move. I completely agree with that. Michael disagrees, and I think Michael talked a lot about the media, about how he wouldn't talk to the media because they were asking him so many questions about his gambling. He did it to himself. The night before a playoff game, you don't drive to Atlantic City and gamble all night. It's not something that we would call professional. And it's no different than me if I decided to gamble until 3, 4 in the morning and then it'd be on the radio at 9 a.m. You can't do that. It's unprofessional. And if I did do that, I would say, you know what? It was a mistake. I was wrong, and I shouldn't have done it, and I shouldn't do it again. But Michael has always defended and listen, he said he's not perfect, but this is a guy with a tremendous ego that he wouldn't even do this documentary unless he had the final say on every single subject. And then they went into Isaiah Thomas and the Dream Team. Nobody can look me in the eye and say Isaiah Thomas should not have been on that team. Isaiah should have been, as great of a point guard John Stockton was, Isaiah Thomas should have been on this team. Christian Laettner should not have been on the team. Okay, Michael Jordan, it was told, asked who's going to be on this team. And the response he got was, I know who you're talking about. He won't be on the team. I believe Michael Jordan gave them an ultimatum. It's either Isaiah or me. If Isaiah Thomas was on that team, I could almost guarantee you Michael Jordan would not have been on the Dream Team. But the man doesn't own up to anything. He doesn't own up to anything. He doesn't own up to the gambling issues he had in his life that have controlled his life, by the way. And he hasn't owned up to that Dream Team situation, which was selfish on his part. I have a huge problem with that.
Who were the guards on that team, Brian? Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan, who else? Who were the backups?
John Stockton. We're talking about John Stockton. That's the person.
John Stockton was the one that got the spot instead of Isaiah.
Which is inexcusable.
Which is why the debate's been for 30 years.
Is it?
Why John Stockton over Isaiah Thomas? And it's not even a comparison.
It's not
at
a
that
comparison.
point in 1992.
Who was the better defender?
Isaiah Thomas. JD. It's
He's
not
the
even a
second-best
debate.
guard in the history of the
Isaiah Thomas
NBA.
is unbelievable. Yeah, at the time, it is a preposterous argument whether or not who's better, John Stockton or Isaiah Thomas. Isaiah was clearly better than John Stockton.
Here's what speaks volumes. Michael Jordan was asked that same question. Guess who he said was the best point guard ever to play the game and the second best point guard? He said Magic Johnson, and then he said,
Isaiah
not
Thomas,
John
right behind him.
Stockton, Isaiah Thomas. If you're Michael Jordan, you have to put your personal feelings aside for the sake of the country. Okay? Jordan
Well, it's not necessarily, but Brian, I'll push back a little bit on that. It's not necessarily for the sake of the country.
Well,
it's for
representing
the
the United
fact
States.
that you're not. He should have been on that squad. It was the Dream Team for a reason, right? You're putting together the 12 best guys as basketball players
And
in the
Isaiah
world.
should have been
And
there.
obviously, Christian Laettner was the one college guy
And let me
that they
give
put
you
on there. But
Right.
putting on John Stockton instead of Isaiah, it is absolutely a clear slight to Isaiah Thomas as a basketball
And I'll give you
player.
another
That's
example.
exactly
Or they
100% true.
thought that Stockton offered a different element
No,
to
that's
the
not
team
why, though.
that
that wasn't
Thomas,
the
that
reasoning,
Thomas
though,
didn't
JD.
offer,
That's
or
not the
could
reasoning
not
they used,
offer.
though.
Or they were worried about continuity for whatever reason as well.
I'm telling you, that's not the case.
Another not reason
again,
why
you,
they
you
did
want
it.
to make sure the team can get along.
JD, that's not why.
Okay,
I'm telling you,
I'm
that's
just
not
saying.
why.
Stockton
Isaiah played with Michael Jordan and Pippen on numerous All-Star teams. There's been other situations where they've been together. That wasn't it. It was a situation, as Brian pointed out, where they and by the way, this was an interesting point that came up in the episode yesterday. Is the whole way that Michael Jordan has addressed that situation with Isaiah and the Dream Team.
Stockton,
That's why it was
Stockton
a point.
leads. I mean, he's the NBA assist per game leader lifetime.
JD,
he has the most assists. He has the most steals lifetime. Now, had they put like a Mark Price on there,
You're right.
that would make sense.
But
I mean, John Stockton over Isaiah Thomas. There's probably a disparity, but it's not a major disparity.
JD, there is a major disparity. This was 1991 when they put the team together. It was the 92 Dream Team. You're talking about stats as far as them being Hall of Fame players now. Even now, though, making the argument that John Stockton's better than Isaiah Thomas, I think is ridiculous.
Listen, I'll say it again.
Isaiah's a better basketball player.
This is what speaks volumes. I'll say it again.
Period,
Jordan
full stop.
said that
Yeah.
Isaiah Thomas, the second best
He's
point
better.
guard of all time,
Yeah.
right behind Magic Johnson. By the way, I'll give you another example of where Michael Jordan sold his ridiculous selfishness. Speaks to me the character of him. Is he the best player of all time? Absolutely. But when they had these USA basketball jerseys made, and Reebok, by the way, paid millions of dollars for them to wear those jerseys. And because Jordan had an issue with Reebok, because Reebok didn't take him, it was Nike that he went to. And by the way, he was a crybaby. He didn't want to even get into a plane and talk to Nike, who was going to offer him a huge deal. Jordan didn't even want to get in the plane, like just a spoiled crybaby. And Adidas, didn't want to make a shoe for him. Adidas sponsored these USA basketball jerseys, and Jordan said he didn't want to show the emblem of I'm sorry, I said Reebok, not Adidas. That was my mistake. Thank you. That was my mistake. He wanted to cover it up when they accepted the gold medal. He refused to show it. He put the American flag over it, not because he wanted to be a patriot, because he wanted to do something to cover the emblem. I just think that, and by the way, they showed it. They showed him saying what he was going to do. He did it on purpose. It's just so childish, man. Yes, is he the best player of all time? Yes, by far, on both ends of the basketball court. No question, hands down. But I'm sorry. It's the story that we talked about a little bit off the air. He was a lifetime horrible tipper. I love that Wayne Gretzky story where Gretzky's gambling with Jordan in Vegas. He gets a cocktail and Jordan tips him $5. And then Gretzky takes the $5 and gives the waitress a $100 chip and says, Michael, that's how we tip in Vegas. I've heard stories of Larry Bird doing the exact same thing when he was hanging out with Michael in Vegas. Him and no tippin' Pippin. It's like the valet people, they just squirm away and they leave when they see one of their cars drive up there. Them and Pete Sampras and Tiger Woods, some of the cheapest professional athletes of all time. And these are guys that have tons and tons of money. And by the way, it was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar that said it best in describing Michael Jordan, the human being. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar said, Michael Jordan, his whole life, has cared more about Nike products than he's cared about humanitarian issues. Now, Michael Jordan is no criminal. I'm not saying that he's a murderer or a felon or, any of that stuff. What I am saying is that Michael Jordan off the basketball court, not a very nice guy.
Do you think that he got his father killed?
Listen, I hate to speculate on stuff like that. Obviously, the answer is I don't know. But it is a possibility. I would not rule it out. Let's put with the gambling, things that he went through in his life. I'm saying it's not out of the realm of possibility. I'll tell you which is else not a realm of possibility. When he took a year off from the NBA, and I think they're going to cover this, next week. When he took a year off from the NBA, we know that Michael Jordan and David Stern, the late David Stern, had a fantastic relationship. They just connected with each other. They had a great relationship. David Stern knew that Michael Jordan was the NBA. He was the NBA. He was it. He was the poster child. And I believe Michael Jordan, with the gambling problem that he had and the debts that he had, and by the way, he was connected to some really bad people. They talked about it yesterday on the show. I believe that it was gambling related, that Michael Jordan bet on his own games. That's what I believe based on information that I've heard, some very good sources that were in the NBA at that time and those that were on the bench. I believe that David Stern told Michael Jordan, take a year away from the game, get your you-know-what together, and that's why Jordan went to baseball. That's what I think.
Do you think he bet against himself or on himself?
Well, I'll tell you this.
That's a tough question.
There's a game.
To answer,
It's a Pete Rose question.
I'll tell you this. There's a game in '95 that Jordan played, and I've seen the footage of it. I think you could find it on YouTube. I believe it was against the Utah Jazz. I think they were favored by like 5.5 or 6 or something. And Jordan was at the free throw line. He missed 8 out of 10 free throws in the final minute of that game. The Bulls won the game, but they did not cover. And there are a lot of people that are speculating that in that game in 1995, or 95, he was taking book.
Right.
I don't know if that's true or not, but I don't think it was a coincidence that Jordan just left the game for a year. I think he was in cahoots with David Stern. We'll probably never know the truth. But I'm telling you right now, the guy just doesn't win 3 NBA championships. You know what? I'm going to leave now. It just doesn't make any sense.
In cahoots, as in Stern was betting with him?
No, that's not what I meant.
Or Stern was cognizant of it.
No, I never.
Stern knew what was going on.
No, I don't think that's
for a long time.
Yeah, I don't think that's Stern bet on games. What I do think is that Stern knew what was going on.
Okay.
I think it was some sort of disciplinary measure. Look, if this news came out and Stern had to announce a suspension or something, it would ruin basketball. It would really hurt the game. He knew that. Jordan knew that. And I think they came to some sort of behind closed doors agreement. I really do.
I don't think there's any question, Brian, that they're going to address it in the next episode as to the reasoning why Jordan retired. There's no doubt about it. You can't get around it. There's no way. But back to the point you were making as far as Jordan, when he addressed whether or not he had a gambling problem, I found it a little bit disingenuous on his part because he brought up the reasoning as if it's how much money that you have in the bank, right, or how much that you're worth. You know, hey, I'm not homeless, right? I didn't, blow all my money. I'm not completely broke, as if that's like some kind of, that's some kind of indication as to whether or not you have a gambling problem, how much money that you're worth or what your bank account size is. That is in no way will tell you whether or not somebody has an issue when it comes to gambling at all. And he brought that up as if it was like the only reason why you would think he had a problem.
I would push back on that. If you have $20,000 in your bank account and you gamble $18,000 away, you have a much bigger problem than someone who has $15 million in their bank account and they gamble $300,000 away. They just do it in higher increments. I mean, if you put yourself,
it's all relative.
If you put yourself in a position
it's all relative.
where you don't have a house, or that it's affecting your life or your livelihood or your family or the shelter that you can provide for the people that you have to care for, then I think that you have then the problem is larger under those circumstances.
But it's not.
And Michael Jordan never did that because he made so much money that he really couldn't do that.
I'll take it a step further. It wasn't just about money. It affected his job. There's no question at times.
The guy won 6 rings.
Okay, but he could win 100 rings. It still affected his performance that night when he went to Atlantic City. He had a horrible game in Game 2. All it has to be is one game for you to say, it affected my job. Maybe I have a problem. There is no doubt Michael Jordan had and has a gambling problem. Now, he was also a nut. Now, to be great in your profession, no matter what you do, you have to be a little crazy and obsessed.
He's a total eccentric.
Michael Jordan would play his poker games in the back of the plane, and all the time, every game for thousands of dollars. But the funny story was, Bill Wennington and John Paxton and some of these guys that didn't have the Michael Jordan money or Scottie Pippen money would be playing dollar blackjack in the front of the plane. Dollar blackjack. And Jordan would walk past them and say, hey, what are you guys playing? Can I play with you? And then they would look at him and be like, why do you want to play with us for? We're only playing $1 a hand. We're effing around. And Jordan says, no, I want to play with you guys. They would say, why? And his response to them was, because I want your money in my pocket.
And that's actually a hilarious response, by the way.
And
I can appreciate that.
And that goes to show you, like a Kobe Bryant, like a Wayne Gretzky, like any of the best in their profession, it doesn't matter what sport or who you are, even the best in the poker world, a Phil Hellmuth, for example.
Right.
You have to be unbelievably psychotic when it comes to competition and winning. They showed footage of him flipping coins against a wall at the Delta Center, I believe. Or United Center, I apologize. And this is a security guy who's probably making $15 an hour, and he's back in the locker room with Jordan before the game, and they're flipping coins for God knows what kind of money. And you could see how pissed off Jordan was getting because this guy kept beating him. And Charles Barkley said Jordan was the guy. It didn't matter how much money he was down. He would play all night until he at least got back to even. That's exactly the kind of gambler that a casino wants in there, a guy that needs to get back even. I can't even imagine how much money Michael Jordan has lost gambling in his career, but I would say hundreds of millions of dollars. John Daly lost like $60 million. So if you know John Daly lost that much, Jordan's probably lost hundreds of millions of dollars gambling.
Yeah, Brian, you pointed out, of course, he went to Atlantic City. That wasn't the reason that he was getting so much media attention. It was because of the books that were put out by the guy that I think he was in L.A. that he was playing golf with, where he allegedly owed over $1.2 million to. That situation. There was also another book there was another situation that basically it stirred up the media where it was directly affecting Michael Jordan.
There was a guy that was involved in drugs, and a guy that was has been arrested before that he was involved with. This guy was like a golf hustler. I forgot his name, and they talked about that on the show yesterday.
Yeah, you owed him $57,000 or something.
So
right?
Jordan lied. He wrote him this check for $57,000, and when asked about it, he said, that was because I forgot the excuse he made, but he didn't mention gambling. And then when he was in court and he had to, go under oath, he said it was a gambling debt. And when asked, well, Michael, why did you lie about it? He said because to get away from the embarrassment of it. This guy has written many of people checks for gambling debts. There's no doubt he was and still is a compulsive gambler. But you know what? We all have our issues. We all have our problems. But when you let it affect your job and your teammates, I think that's an issue. I mean, we heard, got into brawls with Bill Cartwright in practice. He got into brawls with Will Perdue. Steve Kerr
and him used to get into it all the time. Yeah.
And I don't have as big of a problem with that because the guy was so crazy when it came to winning and so competitive. Yeah. I don't have a problem with that. I have a problem with a little of the things he did off the court. The way he treated people off the court. And I get it. He was under a microscope. People wanted a piece of him everywhere he goes in public. People wanted an autograph, a picture. I can't even imagine how difficult that must be. But there are certain people that can handle it better than him.
Hey, Brian and JD.
I don't know how you can say that it actually affected his work because he.
No, it did. I'll tell you why.
I mean, he won so many rings. I mean, what you're saying that if he didn't have a game,
told you.
I'll tell you why.
But in the end, in sports, what matters? I mean, winning that championship matters. Making the playoffs matters. Actually, achieving something matters. He won what? 3 Defensive Player of the Year awards.
I will respond to that. I already did, but
I get that. But
I have an answer too. By the way,
I would say that.
Go ahead, Chris. Let him respond.
JD, I'll respond to your question. You posed a question. You don't think it affected him?
Chris,
you don't think it affected him?
Unless you thought he was going to ring 10. Unless he was going to win 10
I want to tell you
rings.
why I think it affected him. It affected him because there was this swirl of controversy around him, and he was getting just hounded by the media for a long period of time, and he admitted it on both of the episodes yesterday that it affected his psyche and the way that he dealt with the media and the way that he dealt with his teammates, and it affected his play on the court. Obviously, when you have psychological impact like that, right, where you're dealing with a topic like that and with the media day in and day out, and you're getting barraged, it has an impact on the court.
Let me add this. As mentally tough as Michael Jordan was, it broke him. It broke him, and for a year, or I believe it was around 8 or 9 months, he didn't do one interview with the media. He ignored the media. He refused to talk to the media because he didn't want to answer questions to his gambling problem. Yeah. I think that speaks volumes. It did affect him, and it certainly affected him in Game 2 versus the New York Knicks because he got back in town late. He obviously probably didn't get a great amount of sleep, and he didn't perform on Game 2. Now, he came back and they won the series, and that gave him, because he was so good and so special, because he was such a great basketball player, any amount of motivation, he would come back. But the point being is that it did affect him.
But I mean, knowing him, he could have just been challenging himself, saying, "We're gonna lose Game 2, and I'm gonna come back."
I don't think he ever intentionally lost the playoff game.
Because I'm so competitive that I want to win. I want to win the series, and if we're down, then that gives me more incentive to play to up my game to actually win that series. Which he did.
I am very confident.
Guys like that are absolutely They are completely insane.
Guys like that want to win 4-0. They want to put your foot. He would never say, "Oh, let's just give the Knicks Game 2, and then we'll go back to Chicago." All of his players say he was the kind of guy that not only wanted to beat you, he wanted to put his foot on your neck. He wanted to win every series 4-0. Trust me, he did not want to go down 2-0 to the New York Knicks. Trust me, he did not have a good game. It certainly affected his performance in that game. Now, how much it affected his career? Still going down as the best basketball player of all time. But with that being said, he was and still is a compulsive gambler. I want to give our producer, Jason Stein, a little time here. He said he wanted a little bit of time, so somebody throw him a microphone. Jason, what's going on?
Well, from the breaking news desk, just a local thing here. I guess Metro is now investigating an event, this is their words, an event where a suspect shot at officers, 1900 block of Fremont Street. So anyway, it's a fluid situation. According to this notice, they are still looking for a suspect. So if you find yourself in that area, the 1900 block of Fremont,
which is a horrible area,
downtown basically, right? It's east of downtown. Sounds like it.
If you find yourself in that area, you should probably steer clear. There's a lot of activity going on.
That's where Chris Wynn hangs out and plays Caveman Keno.
I do.
Not these days.
Well, it's a good thing that's actually in lockdown, because otherwise I would suspect there'd be a lot more people down there. Right?
Well, if you were thinking of just hanging out outside of Binion's Casino and hanging out downtown with nothing to do, you probably want to stay away from
that. And it's
area.
possible that it's because of lockdown. It could be a result of the lockdown.
Correct. All right, guys, been another spirited show. I think that would be the best word I could describe to use it. We'll be back at you live tomorrow, same time, same place, 9 a.m., giving you the latest information, local news, national news, and, of course, always taking your phone calls. Check us out on Twitter at The Vegas Take. Have a great afternoon, everybody. Sean Hannity is coming up next.
Your home for Sean Hannity. KDWN Las Vegas, KKLZ HD2 Las Vegas, a Beasley Media Group.